Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 258, and we are in February. It's February 15th, Wednesday. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, gentlemen, ladies. We have the garage open here in Columbus, Ohio, because it's still about 60 degrees, which is amazing. So Next Wednesday, we will be bundled up, as it'll be back in the 30s, as I guess we deserve. I don't know. It's terrible. It's fucking terrible. Anyways, we've got Shannon Chapman on, and we have a surprise for the second part. We're going to be joined by someone else as well. So we're going to have 4 people in part 2. But part 1, we're going to be smoking and drinking. Nate brought a brand new bottled Uncle Nearest Rye. Excited to try that. We took a sip before the podcast, but we're excited to get into that bottle a little bit. And we are smoking the Viva la Vida, and that's made by AJ Fernandez. We'll talk about that as well. So before we get into that, I do want to thank our sponsors, you guys, of course, at patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. It's great to have your support each and every month. So we appreciate that. Helps us finance, streaming everything, paying our guests. We don't do that.
Well, we kind of pay them with whiskey.
Yeah, that's true. That, and then also, obviously, to keep things going, looks like we're going to maybe need a new laptop here soon to get everything up to date and keep going before we aren't able to stream. We're good for now, but that's just the way it works, just little things add up there. So thank you guys. Also Venmo at Bourbon and BS for the one-time contributions. Altadis USA, we are smoking the Monte Cristo Nicaragua series next for part 2. I want to thank Tinderbox at Easton. You can find the Viva la Vida as well as other AJ Fernandez cigars at Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. The event, Smoking 10 event, is going to be March 18th. Not quite sold out yet, but definitely about, 60-some% sold out so far. It's going to be Saturday, March 18th. So hopefully you guys can join us, call or stop by the Tinderbox if you're in the area. We can call them. And what does that smell?
Black and Mild.
Perfect.
As soon as she lit up, I was like,
is that
I know that smell.
Is that like a jazz? Just a regular? Old G.
Oh, no, it's fancy. She's got the wood tip.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously she did not get that at the Tinderbox.
All right. BS Cigar Company as well. Gold and silver are available at Tinderbox at Easton, our other sponsor. Gold is made by Placencia, and the silver is made by Espinosa. So thank you very much, all of the sponsors there. And then buyjack.com/bourbon and BS for any of the shirts, like the BS shirt that Nate has on in the red.
Because it's Valentine's.
That's nice. That's good. Good call. Mine's blue. But happy Valentine's Day. You don't have red on. He's repping someone else in the community page. Tell us about your sweatshirt.
Well, he's not on yet. He said he won't be on until the second part. But this is from Bobby Hirschman back there in Philly. This is his mummer house, the Finnegans NYBs.
No one knows anything you just said.
Not one bit, but it's cool.
People in Philly know.
People in Philly know. Bobby knows.
People in Ohio, not
know.
So much.
Fantastic. But yeah, buyjack.com/bourbon and BS. There's a lot of different swag on there, shipped straight to you, easy to navigate that site. So we appreciate your support in that as well. All right, so today we are smoking the Viva la Vida, and we're drinking the Uncle Nearest Rye. We've had an Uncle Nearest on the show, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Nate, tell us
a
little bit
while.
About it. It has been a while. That's why I asked. I was like, do you remember the story? Do we need to look it up a little bit?
Yeah, today was kind of a review. So Uncle Nearest is named after a gentleman by the name of Nathan Green. His nickname was Nearest. He was actually the first black master distiller in the United States back prior to right around the time of the Civil War. There was actually a reverend who owned the distillery, and then some of his congregation didn't like the fact that you have a preacher owning a distillery. So he handed it off to someone else, and Nathan Green had a reputation for distilling whiskey. So, and he lived in the area. So they're like, all right, here, you take it over. And so he kept working for him even after the Civil War ended, because it was in Tennessee. So Tennessee was a southern state. But yeah, so he also became one, and this part of the story kind of got lost for well over 100 years. He actually taught Jack Daniels how to distill whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So The company restarted back in 2017, so it hasn't been around that long, but already in that period of time, they have been the fastest growing whiskey company out there. Just this past year, they topped $100 million in sales annually.
It's amazing.
And they get 100,000 visitors a year to their distillery and tour sites. And they've got a 323-acre property that they have all this stuff down in Tennessee. It's in
amazing.
Shelbyville.
Next to Springfield, right?
Do you know off the top of your head what the black label is?
So the white label is their small batch bourbon, and then the black label
It's like 1856 or something like that.
It's a higher proof. They also have a master blend. They have a rye that comes in at like 120 proof. We're drinking just the rye. It's 100% rye. So
that's what's surprising to me.
Yeah, not a 95.5. They actually wanted to try and make 100% rye. It's at 100 proof. And this actually came out at the end of, or towards the end of 2022. So it hasn't been around all that long. Here in the state of Ohio, it's a $60 bottle.
It's pretty sweet. Like, it's got a sweet flavor, at least to me.
Well, first off, like Sean in the garage and I both said, and then everyone's kind of, we all talking about the nose. It definitely had a fruit, kind of a smell, and it was very surprising to me. And I said apple and pear, and Sean, I think you agreed a little bit with that. And then Nate, you said something
like your red fruits that you would find like in red jams or jellies, like that general type of fruit. But on the palate, and this, I wouldn't even think about anything that Steve had said on the nose. On the palate, a ton of apple. Like that red delicious type of apple, just a ton of it on the palate. And then the finish has a decent amount of spice to it, and it just lasts and lasts and lasts.
It likes to hang on.
It does. It does. And of course, you got some legs to it. It's a good color. I mean, it's lighter than I thought it would be when you hold it up to the light.
Yeah.
Do we know the age on this?
So, it's actually distilled. I'll get it. So it's distilled in Canada, which is
Canadian rye,
which is where most rye is grown. But it's done to the same standards as American rye whiskey, so it's at least 51%. This is 100% new oak, charred oak. It's then matured in New York for 4 years, and then it's sent to Tennessee, where they put it into Uncle Nearest barrels to finish it.
Are those virgin oak, or what are the Uncle? Or like
so they're probably finishing it like in some of their
bourbon barrels,
used bourbon casks and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it's even kind of confusing because on the back label at the bottom,
sounds confusing.
It says product of Canada.
Sure.
Aged in New York and Tennessee, aged and bottled by Nearest Green Distillery, Shelby, Tennessee. So distilled in Canada, aged in New York, sent to Tennessee, aged again in their
we don't know how long in Tennessee, right? You said 4 years?
4 years in New York, and then finished. Don't know how long that is, but just finished in Tennessee.
Interesting. Shannon, what do you think of it?
I don't usually pick out ryes, but this is actually pretty damn good. I like the sweetness of it. It does have that apple finish, like that right on the nose.
You can use it, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it does have that apple, a little bit of apple taste to it. It goes down real smooth, but then lets you know when it goes down, but it's not like a real bad.
Yeah, it's 100 proof, so it's not going to like really knock you too far back.
You know it goes down, but it's not going to tear you up.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good sipper. I mean, going back and forth between the cigar and this, it really brings out a lot of the sweet notes.
Sean, go ahead.
I agree with everything. The nose, definitely some fruit on the palate. And I let it kind of sit there. And after a while, and after it kind of lingered, I got some butterscotch on the palate as well.
Really? Nice.
And there's some kind of spice on the finish. And I cannot put my.
That's yeah.
Is it like a?
Well, it's because that rye. It's more more of your baking spices.
Spice.
It's
Yeah,
not a
it's
pepper.
not just like pepper. It's like some kind of unique spice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's good. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to place the spice too. I mean, you guys, I agree with all you guys. It's nice. It's a nice sipper.
Yeah.
It's a nice sipper.
I think it has a nice amount of spice. It just hits your palate on the backside right before it goes down, and
Yeah.
it just hits quick and goes away.
This is definitely a rye that would stand up in a cocktail.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I'd
If
agree with
if
that.
you want to make like a rye old fashioned out of this, it'll handle it.
Sounds tasty.
So 100% rye. I can't think of any right now off the top of my head, unless you can, Nate. Like, what other 100% ryes have you had?
So typically you're going to find like rookie in the garage. So typically you're going to find a 95.5. So you're going to find a 95% rye, 5 grain malted barley, or 5% malted barley. That malted barley helps with the fermentation process because the yeast will go after it, and it just provides a little bit more carbs for the yeast to go after. So 100% rye, yeah, there's not too many, I think, out there, just because and they even say so on the bottle, like it's tough to make 100% rye mash bill.
Is there an advantage or a disadvantage going 100%?
So the disadvantage would be you probably aren't going to get like some of the sweeter, like darker caramel notes or something, like say for instance Russell's Reserve 6-year rye. You know, that's got a fair amount of sweetness to it. You kind of need that sweetness to balance out the spice of the rye, because for some people that rye spice is one of the reasons they don't like rye. Is they don't care for that spice. They like bourbon because the caramel, the butterscotch, the dark cherries, like they like those fruit notes and stuff. Okay. Not everyone enjoys rye whiskey because it tends to have that spice. But at the same time, you know, having 100% rye, it's like, okay, this is what happens when we're not adding any corn, any wheat, any barley, just straight one ingredient. Here you go.
I'm digging it. I like it. So I don't know too much about ryes. I don't really pick them that much, but I'm digging this one. Like, I think the last rye that I really liked was that Peerless.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was really good.
Those Peerless ryes are fantastic.
Yeah.
It's funny that Sean mentioned it because, you know, it's like the spice. I'm trying to place it too. It's got a little bit of pepper to it. And as I've taken more sips of this, I'm curious to see how it kind of goes. And maybe it's also the cigar bringing out some of it a little bit more, but I'm interested to see how, you know, on another pour, you know, how this is going to keep up with that pepper. Cause I almost feel like it a little bit more as I've been sipping on it. As Nate takes another sip. I mean, do you agree with that, or
you're getting more of the pepper on the finish?
I'm getting it back here more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hanging out right below the jowls.
Yep. The jowls. The jowls.
Now I have to keep leaning because this cigar is just pluming smoke, and it just keeps going right up my nose.
I keep trying to put it over here for
No, mine is doing it.
if I hold mine here,
You want me to close the garage? I mean, it's 60 degrees in February. I mean, I can close the garage.
No,
so
we're
you guys
good.
don't have a little
Don't you
draft
dare.
to you.
Don't you dare.
Yeah, I like. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, don't close the garage because I spent my entire day sitting outside, enjoying the sun and warmth, smoking cigars, drinking coffee, watching TV,
Sounds terrible.
and studying.
Yeah.
I'm getting the apple's going away a little bit. It's almost like I said, maybe it's just again the smoke, you know, the cigar, but it's not getting unpleasant. It's just getting to a point where it's a little bit more spice and pepper dominant for me.
Do you want to hear what their website says the flavor notes on
let's
this?
go.
All right, on the nose, bold and decadent with notes of praline, nutmeg, and white pepper.
Time out. What the hell is praline?
Like, it's a nut, like praline ice cream.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Okay. On the palate, brimming with light vanilla cream, caramelized sugar, and the unmistakable spice of rye.
So that's the spice.
Yeah. Finish. Yeah. Finish. Long, rich, and well balanced. It is a long finish.
They didn't really say anything there.
Yeah, no flavor notes.
I mean, vanilla and
But on the finish, like there's no.
It's like they
just,
threw
hey.
confetti in the air, like, here you go.
I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to them. I mean, because their website's very cool. I mean, they have that. I think Jeffrey Wright, at least he used to be the one that kind of tells a story.
Yes.
Fantastic.
It's like a 10-minute video.
Yeah, great story. But you basically just said it's good on your own website. That's all you said. Like it's decadent.
It's
like
you
just,
whiskey.
yeah, it's like you're just like, how do we say it's good? And you like pull out a thesaurus and you're like, well, these are words for it. We'll just slam them in the beginning, middle, and end.
Well, they have been like in their short existence, they've been racking up a ton of awards. Like I said, they're the fastest growing whiskey brand out there over the last 5-6 years. And
So
they're just.
I think it's unique, and I think you might have touched on it, but just to point out also being a Black-owned company and obviously a Black distiller, and I think the timing of all this stuff really was great for them. You know what I mean? As far as I'm not saying it in a negative way, but I mean the way, especially this country has been going through everything. Like this is a hot thing. I mean, even in the cigar shop, I had a lady come in and ask. She was looking for a Valentine's Day gift, and she's like, I got to ask, like, do you have any Black-owned cigar companies? And so, I mean, it is a selling point. And I'm not saying it's being marketed in a deceitful way, but I mean, it's relevant right now in the U.S. And I think this being that and having the story, and tying into Jack Daniels, as you mentioned, Nate, and also like, again, if you go to the website, and I encourage you guys to do that because it's a great presentation of the story, and it's narrated, and he's even in the videos, that Jeffrey Wright, who's been in a ton of stuff. He's in Westworld. I know he played
Hunger Games.
Played Muddy Waters and Cadillac Records, which was a great role for him, but just a great narrator and just storyteller there. So it's pretty cool to see that. But it's got to help, the sales of being relevant, and also being, from what I've had from the collection, it is. I mean, not to say what I just, it's good. I mean, it's good juice. I mean, they're not just putting out shit and saying, oh, this is all marketing and everything else. Like they're doing good things.
The marketing that you're bringing up, I think that could attract first-time buyers, but what's in the bottle is what I think keeps people coming back to it and why they've had so much growth.
Yeah.
I think that's been the biggest thing, is like they've actually been making really good products that people enjoy. And whether they know the story or not, like people enjoy what's in their bottles, and that's why they've had so much success.
I don't know if I might have missed it when you were telling the story, but how long between when the inception it went away and then they restarted it back in 2017? When did it, what was that?
Oh gosh, I would say it ended at Prohibition, if not before.
Is it on the website?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
In their story, I didn't see it.
Okay.
My guess, I mean, there was only a handful of distilleries in the U.S. that actually got medicinal permits during Prohibition. They weren't one of them. So I don't know how much longer, during his time or after that they were still in operation. But once Prohibition hit, that was the end of it for them until it was started back up again in 2017. And then the current, I think her official title is Master Blender. She's 5th generation.
Like bottle, yeah.
Like she's actually a descendant of Nathan Green.
Yeah, V. Edie Butler.
Yeah, Victoria Edie Butler.
She signs it on the bottle or whatever.
With a V.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it says 5th generation Master Blender.
She's a 4-time Master Blender of the Year recipient.
Damn.
With this project, or is she working elsewhere?
So she's only been with them since 2019, and when she started with Uncle Nearest, she wasn't even their Master Blender. And it was only like 60 days after she started that she was asked to work on their Master's Blend project. And since then, so she wasn't with the company the first couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Being the Master Blender wasn't.
But she's part of the family?
Yeah. Yeah. So she's related to Nathan Green.
Okay.
But she wasn't with the company when it started.
employed elsewhere, is what I
Yeah.
assume, right?
So 2 years later, she came on board, but then it wasn't until a couple months after that she actually had a hand in
That's
one of the
interesting.
products. But then she's taken it over since then.
It says on the back of the bottle, this was a lofty experiment that worked. The results of this 100% rye mash bill matured in used, like you said, used Uncle Nearest barrels before being bottled at 100 proof. Keeps with our tradition of creating some of the most awarded whiskeys in the world. This rye whiskey elevated, hitting every mark with its rich flavor profile, incredible balance of spices, and extraordinarily smooth finish. It's basic, as far as the story on the bottle. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the story that you can find out about, as far as the family. I kind of like the fact that they don't really put the tasty notes, especially because I'm not trying to be negative, but they're very basic, even on their own website. But I can respect it. When I said there, kind of jokingly saying, like, they could have just written, like, it's good, but they're letting you do a little bit of the, like some of the companies will put out these
figure it out for yourself.
very specific notes and everything like that. And sometimes I think they're on point and sometimes they're not, but it gets in your head. And I don't think they did that. I mean, vanilla, and I think it was salted caramel or something sugar.
Caramelized sugar.
But they don't even put that on the bottle. So it's up to you to.
I like that when they don't do. I don't like when they put the note that gives you a preconceived kind of.
The colors on it are beautiful.
Yeah.
And
on the bottom, talking about the labeling.
This is available in all 50 states.
Which is also, I think, part of why they're doing so well. Is they're obviously being aggressive, but to be in all 50 states that quickly is impressive.
All 50 states, 12 countries.
Yeah.
In that time, they've received over 450 awards and accolades, 54 best-in-class honors, including Spirit Brand of the Year from Wine Enthusiast. And then
they've got some sharp people working for them because, again, with, some of the local distilleries that we have here in Columbus, Ohio, which we really enjoy, think about the level of investment financially and who you're hiring to get this stuff out there the way they have in just over 5 years. That's serious.
So
that's serious money.
That's putting in some work.
So their location in Shelbyville, as I mentioned earlier, was 323 acres. It's actually nicknamed Malt Disney World.
That's fair.
What?
Does it have a list of the countries? Ray Chester just asked if it has a list of the countries. The 12.
Well, they don't put it on their website, but I can try and dig into it, Ray.
Yeah, Ray, you're late to the party, bud.
That's all right. That's all right. Normally we're late, so easy. We're even. The Viva la Vida, we'll switch gears if you want to see if you can find that out. I put it down as the AJ Fernandez Viva la Vida. That's who distributed to us. This at one time was a limited cigar, especially I think we smoked on the podcast because we are revisiting this. It's been over 2 years since we smoked this cigar on the show, but it is made by AJ Fernandez, but there's nothing that says AJ Fernandez on the band. It's got it on the bottom of the box, but it's nowhere in the marketing. And this is something that just kind of to go back, AJ made this for and forgive me if I say this wrong, the Fakih, Fakih brothers, and they had actually, I don't know who's honking here, but they had opened up a couple of cigar and tobacconist locations in New York City years ago. And they were the original official cigar aficionado humidor and lounge. They basically backed out selling their shops in 2015. Now they're both Casa de Monte Cristos, but then they started working with AJ because they were big fans of his projects. They came up with this. So it was about 2019. They came out with a Viva la Vida, and it was originally sold at only about 75 retailers. So it's kind of expanded, but I think it's still a small project. I love the marketing behind it. Don't really know why they picked that. Couldn't really find that in my kind of research there, but I know our AJ rep had sold it to us. The problem with something like this is on the opposite side of what we're talking about with the Uncle Nearest project is that there's really no push for this. You know, it's been highlighted. Cigar Aficionado has talked about it, like, but it's never really like, I've never had anyone come in asking for the Viva la Vida.
I never
They'll
knew
see it and they'll be like, "What is?" Yeah, like
I've never known it
yeah.
even existed. But
Yeah.
I'm loving the band, the actual band on here. I love the detail.
It's like the Mardi Gras theme.
Well,
right?
it almost
Yeah.
goes with the mummers too.
Yeah, it
It
does.
does a little bit.
It does look like a little mummer.
But you're right. There's a lot of detail on the band. The box is a black box that has that logo in a very detailed like sticker on top. You know, that's where a lot of people will do that.
If you were to show me this just off the band, I would actually buy this just off the band.
Yeah.
But why do you think AJ didn't like put his name on here anywhere?
Because AJ makes a lot of stuff for other people. And he's done that before. He's well, for example, he makes stuff. So like Erica Espinosa, a lot of his stuff is he has several factories. So sometimes you'll see that on the bottom of the box where it says, you know, crafted by AJ Fernandez, or it'll just say made in the San Lotano factory or something like that.
Okay.
But like Eric uses him to make all the 601 stuff now just because he has the capacity to do so. So he'll make stuff, but he doesn't necessarily, it's not all his branding.
Okay.
So this was like a smaller, kind of like the BS Gold or BS Silver, right? You know, BS Silver, it's made by Espinosa at his factory in La Zona. And then also, you know, the gold is made by Plasencia, but it doesn't say Plasencia on anything, right? So they
Yeah,
make
right.
the cigars for smaller operations. And that's kind of where we're at here. This is a Nicaraguan Puro. Nate, what wrapper do you think this is?
Well,
Little,
you said Nicaragua Puro.
yeah.
So
What shade? It's dark.
I'm gonna guess it's either Habano or Criollo.
Okay, and what shade?
Uh,
Called Maduro. Called
no,
Oscuro.
not Oscuro. Or I mean,
You don't think it's dark?
it has that red hue like a Sumatra wrapper, though.
You had part of that. Habano Oscuro is what they call it.
It's darker than a regular Habano.
Correct. And then, so the binder is Corojo 99 and the filler is Criollo 98. So it's all Nicaraguan tobacco. I think this has got a great construction on mine, at least. Got good draw. It's got a little bit of sheen, not really a whole lot on the wrapper leaf. Not very toothy. It's a smooth wrapper.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's in my opinion, it looks like a high-end wrapper leaf.
Absolutely.
You know, there's not many veins in it. It seems like it's a very selective process for which wrapper leaf they used on this.
I mean, I let this thing sit here for a while and it just kept burning. Like, I haven't had to touch it.
Lots of smoke. I mean, it just billows smoke.
Almost like a Liga.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. Or yeah, like the Liga 9 or the Nica Rustica.
Yeah.
What the hell you want, Sean?
Sean Wilkinson, everyone.
Just wanted to.
Hey guys, how you
cents
doing?
Hey,
Sitting back here.
hey there, everybody. Yes, indeed, do they.
Sean from Milwaukee.
What are you guys doing today?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's I tried the first retro, man. I almost sneezed.
Yeah.
There's some spice in that.
Oh, there is pepper and spice.
Good
I have not
Lord.
tried the retro.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it'll make you. It'll water your eyes a little bit.
Well, maybe for you.
I don't want to have a seizure on.
No, yeah,
on
just did. I
camera.
mean, it kind of like starts going up. It's that sensation. It's almost like not back in your sinuses. Like stays right here. Somehow it stays in the front of your nasal
Absolutely.
cavity.
Yeah.
right
like
there in the
almost
bridge
like-
of your nose. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like somehow it's like in the cartilage now, and you're just like, well, now shit. Now I don't know where that's
It's
going.
part of you now.
Felt like I just did.
Yeah,
a,
now it's like your eyes like open up a little
Nose
bit.
cancer.
You know.
Feel like I just did a line of pepper.
All right. What are you doing back there when we're not watching?
Go down and keep my wife company. Come on. Now.
Nate, what do you think? You've smoked this before, correct?
It's been a while. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you were on the show when we did it. It was 2021.
Then I was. No, it is a good smoke, and I agree with you for what you said. Like, I think sometimes it gets lost in the mix because it doesn't say AJ on it.
It also
it
wasn't
takes
pushed.
It also doesn't. It's up. This is one of those cigars that it's really up to the retailer to be able to push.
Mhm.
I don't think they've done enough promotion of this cigar that a lot of people actually go out there and seek this cigar out by name. I think it's something that the retailer has to be knowledgeable enough about this cigar to be able to sell this to a customer.
Yeah.
You know, if the customer is open to recommendations and you sit there and say, you know, the customer says, you know, I'm looking for this type of cigar, I'm looking for Nicaraguan. Like, well, here, have you tried this Viva la Vida? Like, no, I've never heard of it. Well, it's made by AJ Fernandez. Like, oh, there's a name people recognize. And they'll buy it. A lot of times they'll buy it because of that. As soon as you name drop it.
Well, the official name of those brothers when they started their business, and I think that's who's doing this, is Artisano del Tobacco. No, I can't say it because I don't normally read it like that. But yeah, ADT is what they would call themselves, which obviously is confusing in certain realms. ADT.
Wow.
Yeah, home security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you put that out there. I don't think they're really. Again, I contrast it with the Uncle Nearest.
Yeah.
They're not pushing this. I don't think to make it a global seller.
Yeah. Well, and even though the band does look really nice, like the texture to it, the band almost looks gimmicky, like something you would find on a cheap cigar. Like it's a band for laughs.
If it wasn't so detailed and embossed well.
Yeah,
I
but
could
you would
see that.
you
If
would
this
actually
was
have
a
to
flat printing.
Yes,
Yeah, I
but
can
you would
see
have
that.
to get it in your hand to actually rub your finger over it to feel the texture and realize, oh no, this is actually really quality.
I could see that. I can see what
glossy
you're saying
band.
there.
But if this was, you know, behind a door like at the Tinderbox at Easton, like you couldn't feel the band. You may not even be able to see the light reflecting off of the band to see that the gloss is there. You know,
but
can
you
see
can
that.
see the detail in it.
And a lot of
though.
walk-in humidors,
Not
you
a
could
lot of
see
people
it
pay-
though.
yeah,
And a lot-
walking
which
humidor, you could feel it.
Majority of shops are
Yeah.
walk-in humidors, so
But-
you could see that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you could when you actually pay attention. As Shannon said, you can actually see the detail. I think a lot of people would just glance over it. They would see it, and then they wouldn't actually focus in on the details to realize, you know what, that actually might be a pretty good
Man,
smoke.
I'm honestly, you know how I always come in. I buy a bunch of cigars and I'll say, just throw something there as a surprise.
Yeah.
And I would be pleasantly surprised with this one. Like,
What's interesting, this did get a rating in 2020.
Yeah.
This was the number 16 cigar of the year for aficionado. In the jester size, which was a more exclusive size.
Yeah.
That we
hold on,
did
what's
carry.
a jester size?
It
I think
was
that's
a,
the one we smoked on the podcast.
It
was
was
the
a
Jester.
5x56.
Yeah.
And we got it in 5-packs at Tinderbox at Easton. I mean, so we got it in 5-packs. And I don't know if they didn't push it. Like, again, like I keep going back to that. They didn't push it, so they had extras, so the AJ Fernandez reps could sell it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things.
Well, I remember one point when the Tinderbox got it in, like on the shelves, up on the top shelf, you had some AJ Fernandez products, and then this one and another AJ cigar that actually has AJ's name were like one panel over, but on the bottom shelf.
Yeah.
Now, this is included next to all the other AJ Fernandez products, which I think was a good move because if someone comes in, yeah, I'm looking for AJ Fernandez. All right, here's this whole section. And
What's interesting? Yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
That's what's interesting about this, though, is that it's you put the pieces together. I'm not trying to say that they're not true with their ratings at Cigar Aficionado, but you look at the timing and that the cigar shops that they owned in New York City was the first Cigar Aficionado lounge and humidor. This cigar came out after they had sold in 2015 and 2019. They started selling this cigar, and the following year, it was in the top 25 of Cigar Aficionado.
Connect the dots.
Connecting the dots, not to talk
What was
poorly about.
Are we painting by
what
numbers
was-
right now?
I'm
what
just
was
fucking
the
reading
rate?
the story? I mean, this is just how it goes.
What was the rating in aficionado?
16.
No, that was the rank.
Oh,
What was-
94.
90,
Sorry.
94.
If
Goddamn.
you're on top 25, you're 94 above, I believe. I don't think they have any 93s and 25.
All right. Well, all right.
That year, let's look at it.
I don't. Yeah, what was number 25?
So did you get a chance? Well, you guys have already smoked this before, but I was actually puffing on this a little bit.
92 is 25. Sorry.
Oh, no,
It
you're
was
good.
a Cuban.
I was puffing on this a little before we had the Uncle Nearest, and I got a lot of like creamy kind of texture out of it when I was smoking on it before I touched the the rye now it just
You said this was creamier?
in the
Okay.
initial kind of like 4 or 5 first puffs,
Mhm.
I got a lot of creaminess out of it. It's just been a really good smoke. Like you said, the construction's been great.
I think this has a lot of those food flavor, baking spices.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a ginger to it.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of the Herman's batch with that ginger spice to it.
Okay.
It reminds me a little bit of that because I actually smoked one of those recently this past weekend.
So I don't know if you've said it already, but price point?
Price point, you're coming in at like 12, 13. So it's average now for an unknown in a sense, not AJ, but obviously this boutique brand that's getting this done. I mean, it's coming in. It could be more, in my opinion, being a boutique brand, but that's about average right now, in my opinion.
Well, this is right up there with like the Diaz de Gloria, which is an AJ.
That says AJ Fernandez on it.
It does. But I'm talking about like price point, this is coming in that same price point as that.
Do you feel like this with the band and not saying AJ and all the factors we've just talked about, you believe this is more of like a boutique style?
Definitely boutique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
It's not a smoke that every retailer is going to want to carry. Shops that do well with AJ might still steer clear of this one because it doesn't say AJ. If they do really well selling AJ Fernandez products, this doesn't say AJ, even though it's made by AJ. They may not put this on the shelf for that reason because people are going to come in, especially if you're a walk-in humidor where you can grab your own sticks. Like because you don't see it, you may not pick it up, even though AJ Fernandez products do really well in your store. Customers may not pick it up because it doesn't have that name. That's why I was saying earlier, like this is something that the staff at a retail shop would have to know this product in order to be able to push it, because I don't think too many people are just going to see this and out of curiosity pick it up.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, as far as what I'm getting from the cigar, and again, I lit it up after this time. I haven't smoked it in a while, but sipping on the Uncle Nearest Rye, I'm getting a lot of like that kind of black coffee, getting some spices from it. I'm getting a little woodiness. I'm trying to place the woodiness, but it's kind of all dancing around that same thing.
Yeah.
It's a darker woodiness, not like that bright cedar or oak. Like it's a darker, like
definitely
like a mahogany.
changed. It's definitely changed.
Rich
The more I've
mahogany.
been sipping on this, the cigar has changed immensely.
How so?
In the beginning, it was kind of light. I feel like it was a little bit lighter. Like I said, the creaminess. As I've got it into the rye, I've like all the stuff you just said.
Yeah.
It's just starting to pull out more of the woodiness, the more earth tones.
A little like bready, like what I mean, like you know.
I just went back to the rye for the first time in a while, probably since we started talking about the cigar, and definitely brings out a little bit more sweetness of the rye.
Absolutely.
Because you're getting all that spicy, and in my opinion, like a black coffee. Yeah. Not really the cocoa notes, though. A lot of times you get that from like something like that. It's a spicier thing.
What would you, medium plus, medium full?
I'm pushing like medium full, pushing full, man.
Okay.
Flavor wise, for sure, full.
Mm-hmm.
Strength wise, medium, full, leaning towards full. Again, you're getting, Nate just exhale. You're getting a lot of smoke from this construction.
And smoke is flavor.
And smoke is, in the air here. It's a lot.
Hold on, folks. Here comes Sean again.
Hello again. It's me. I just took
We'll get more people contributing to Patreon. We'll get more camera angles in here. We're gonna pan over the Sean angle here.
Yeah,
I'll get a camera right here that focuses out to the audience.
I'm gonna have a Sean cam. All right, just give me a Sean cam. Anyway,
you have to be here for the Sean cam, though.
Oh, fire! Shots fired.
You know what? I can do it from home too.
That's right. Send you the link.
Anyway, when I was just doing the cigar, I get we talked about how spicy it was on the retro, but I took a couple of drinks of the Uncle Nearest and then did a hit, and there was no burn or anything on the retro. It took it completely out.
Really?
It was weird. And then you can get more of I can pick out more of the flavor of the cigar. instead of my eyes watering.
Which is interesting because I think this is a tough cigar to pair.
Yeah.
I think this is a tough cigar to pair up with
It is.
anything, any
Yeah.
beverage.
Yeah, but it being such a smoother and sweeter, and with the spice, I think it's a good.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yin and yang kind of thing.
Why do you think this cigar would be tough to pair with? I mean, we didn't plan this to be the pair.
We didn't. Because I agree with what you were saying about
none
it
of
being
us
sweeter.
None of us here have ever had this bottle.
No. I just think it is because you wouldn't want to go too sweet. It's interesting to take sips of something like this newer Uncle Nearest Rye because of what we talked about, you know, and even for what I was saying on my side of things is that I thought it was a little sweeter up front and they had the floral notes in the nose, lit the cigar up, started doing that. And all of a sudden I'm getting a little bit more right off the rip. I had mentioned that I'm getting more of that pepper right back, you know, almost in the back of the palate and the throat there. I would agree with what Sean's saying. As we're going through this pairing, I say it's tough because this cigar, with as much smoke and flavor as it gives off, you guys didn't mention as much as I am, but like with that black coffee with a little bit of spice, that's a unique combination, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a whole lot of coffee blends that they boast that it's going to have like, you know, kind of like a cayenne pepper to the coffee because you're like, I don't want to drink that. I would never buy that bag.
I've had some. It's delicious.
Well, there you go. Black Rifle Coffee, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah. But get them to sponsor the show.
Please, Evan Hafer.
But I'm just saying, like, that's a tough one to
Hashtag.
pair. You know what I mean? When you have something that has some very dominant flavors, especially if you think about when you typically drink coffee, like in the morning, you know, it's like, do you want it overpowering your eggs and bacon and everything else? You know what I mean? You don't typically, that's where I said I think it's a tougher one to pair because it's pretty strong flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go with, especially what we do on the show with bourbons and other whiskeys, you got to be selective. So I think it's better that we went into this blindly with this Uncle Nearest Rye because it's not a bad pairing, which we'll get to in a moment as far as the ratings. But I think that this is something that this cigar would be tough to pair unless you did maybe find the right hearty sweetness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That it's not just like overly sweet, but it has like I'm not saying I'd encourage you to smoke the cigar and eat chips and salsa, but if you were, I'm thinking like a habanero pineapple salsa. I think would
mango
go.
habanero.
Mango habanero.
Okay.
Well, pineapple. I like pineapple in my salsa.
I can get
You know what I
with
mean? It's like fruity but spicy. You know what I mean? So you're kind of getting that, and then you have this in there. Like, so there you go. Make it happen.
Well, I think so. You and I,
Ray
Steve.
says, avoid tequila.
I
I don't know if that's with this cigar, just in general.
You and I, Steve, we've smoked this cigar before.
Yeah.
Knowing this cigar, if we didn't know what this bottle tasted like, and we just looked at the color inside, you would think, oh no, this cigar is absolutely going to blow this whiskey away. Whatever it is, we're thinking like, even if you said, hey, this is 100 proof, you're thinking, I don't know, with way this cigar smokes and the profile, the strength of this cigar, like you got to be, you know, a well-aged bourbon, almost barrel strength. Like you almost expect something, you almost expect to need something strong to be able to stand up to this cigar.
I think when you bring in the bottle of this, Uncle Nearest, in the last 5 years, they've done a lot for themselves to tell the story that introduces the brand. Part of that story is, follow me on this. Part of the story is that Nathan Green, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Nathan Green taught Jack Daniels how to do what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
You think Jack Daniels, you think of this sweeter Tennessee sour mash, if I'm not mistaken, right? So you have this type of thought in your mind. That isn't necessarily the best seller when you're trying to get into the bourbon and rye type of market. Now, if you've had other Jack Daniels products, like some of their single barrel and some of their projects, just like a lot of these companies, they're known for Jack Daniels, the number 9, the black label that's in every bar, number 7, excuse me. You can say them, Mike, you can correct me. But league provider number 9. No, but Jack Daniels, the black label, right?
Yep.
What everyone calls as just Jack.
Yep.
That's when you branch off of that with your story of where you're coming from, you're gonna have some benefit to that story, but you may also have some people that are really hesitant to buy your products if they are equating Uncle Nearest, whatever the product is, to Jack Daniels. And I think that happens a lot of the times. Like we talk about Jim Beam a lot of times. When we talk about some of the products we've had from Jim Beam, they put it on the fine print, but they don't boast Jim Beam on their own products because it tricks your mind a little bit when you're marketing. You're like, I don't like Jim Beam. Why would I buy this?
Well,
I don't like Jack Daniels. Why would I buy Uncle Nearest? He taught him everything he knows. This is probably just going to be like Jack Daniels.
Well, and to that point, you're talking about Jack Daniels, $20 bottle, give or take. And you're talking about Uncle Nearest, where their products range anywhere from $45 to $150 a bottle.
Sure, and Jack Daniels has some expressions that are going to be in that.
Yeah, like the
too.
private select rye, single barrel, stuff like that. But when, like you brought up, that relationship to Jack Daniels, but then here you have a product that's going to be 2 or 3 times the price. If you go into it expecting a Jack Daniels product, that's the wrong mindset.
Well, if just what you said, if I had any knowledge of like this was a inspired Jack Daniels or whatever,
it's part of the story,
I would be hesitant.
Right.
I would 100% be hesitant because I can't. No.
And that's why I think, and I've said it many times, I think it is in everyone's best interest to go to, is it unclenearest.com? Is that the actual website?
Yep.
unclenearest.com. Watch the story. Again, great presentation. Again, I don't know what kind of money that they have invested in this, but you hire a main Hollywood actor to just rattle off your story in a highly produced segment that's like 5 to 10 minutes long. I mean,
I'm sure he was pretty willing to do it.
He might have been.
Given the story.
He might have been.
Given the story.
But they're not messing around, obviously, in any of this stuff. But it's just, it's that was my point, what Shannon just said. Because if he knew that, he's like, what's this Uncle Nearest about? He's like, oh, this guy is one that taught Jack Daniels everything he knew.
You'd be going into it expecting a Tennessee whiskey.
I don't know. $60 for a Jack Daniels
I actually
inspired bottle. I don't know, man.
We actually got introduced to Uncle Nearest. We went down to La Chaveta, and one of our friends was down there putting on a show, like a music kind of rockabilly style thing. We sat down with these guys. We didn't know who they were. They're like, hey, come sit with us. Come chill with us. We're like, all right, cool. And they had Uncle Nearest, the black label. And it was the first time I ever had it. And I was like, holy shit, this is actually really good.
Sure.
And we sat there and just bonded over this bottle and cigars. And that's all I've ever had of them is the black label. So this is actually.
Let me ask you this, and I don't know this story, and I'm not trying to make a point, but going full circle of what we talked about, what I mentioned about what does well for this and the timing and everything. Was the group of guys, were they black?
Yes.
And I didn't know this story. I'm not making a point with that. The only point slightly that I try to make is that is something that you didn't know the story, but again, possibly there is multiple demographics that would absolutely give this a try because they did hear this story. They know it's a black-owned company, which is not common at all in the whiskey world.
Yeah.
So it's
or
female owned, right? So you have both sides of that, and it's interesting that. But when did they bring that up?
No, they never brought that up.
Okay.
We just sat down and like, hey, we got bottles. Just come sit with us. And they had several bottles of this, and we just sat and enjoyed, and it was a great time, man.
So I think it's a cool story because you have this personal story where you're at this cigar shop and lounge, and they were sharing it with you. Didn't even try to boast, that this is why we bought it. It may not be why they bought it. Hell, they might not even know. But I would say that is something that has helped that growth, is that it goes back to what Nate said. Yeah, that might get you your first buy, or it might have a group of guys or a group of girls that are drinking this, and then you guys come up to them. You're like, hey, have you had this? No, I've never even heard of it. Man, this is really good. And then you find out full circle. So, I mean, again, it goes back to what's in the bottle, what the juice is, but there's from the marketing side of it, and obviously with the pedal to the floor that they're doing with their finances and everything else to get this out there, it's got to be good.
Yeah,
it has to be a good, because if you would have done it, it's not that good. And then you hear the story afterwards, like, no, it's a cool story. I thought it was really cool. We had a good night. They were great guys. I didn't really care for what they were like. It just wasn't good.
So
No.
That's where the shortcoming, that's where the disconnect happens. It's like, no, I appreciate it. That's really cool, but I'm not going to buy something for $60 or whatever it is that I didn't enjoy just because I like those guys. I like the story.
No,
I
we had
think it's
such a good
cool.
experience that I actually went out and bought a bottle.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
that's
So-
kind of,
and the
it's
bottle,
cool that you share the story because that's kind of how we talked about
Yeah.
all this stuff.
the bottle that Shannon is referring to, the black label, that's the Uncle Nearest 1856. It's 100 proof, just like this one is. I think 1856 is a reference to when he started working for that reverend. His name was Dan Call.
Okay.
I believe that's in reference to that. Originally, that's the same price as what this bottle is. Currently in Ohio, it's $3 off. But then there's the 1884, which is coming in at a lower price point. It's 46 to 50.
Is that the green?
No, it's the white label.
That's a white, which this is a pretty light label here with
Yeah,
the blue.
Yeah, so the
But it
1856,
says rye, nice and bold on
the
there.
1856 has the same color primary label as this one does.
Okay.
It's just that band around the side is all white. Instead, it's the same color as the primary band, whereas the rye has that blue.
It's deep blue. It's a
Yeah.
nice, yeah.
And going around, the blue also is on the top,
Mhm.
whereas the regular 1884 has the same cream color band going across the top as the label is.
Yeah.
And then the 1856 is the 100 proof. That's the black band or the
Okay.
black label. And then there's the master blend, which is very difficult to find in Ohio.
Mhm.
And that one's coming in $75 in Ohio.
It's not terrible.
No, it's not. It's a little higher than average, but I mean, again, it's not too far off.
That one comes in at 112 proof.
Okay.
And obviously, they're sourcing it from other places, and they're also distilling their own stuff at this point, right?
Yes, because like some of their regular stuff, like the 1884 or the 1856, I think that's a blend of like 8 to 14-year whiskeys.
Okay.
And obviously they haven't been around that long. So they're sourcing, they're blending, because that lady, her title's not master distiller, it's master blender. So they are acquiring barrels from other places, and then she is the one that's actually making that blend.
And not to take away from anything we're talking about tonight, but I am excited that Barrel Craft actually sent a bottle of batch number 34 of barrel bourbon.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll be I'm trying to line up an interview with someone, another person,
Yeah.
or someone we talked to.
Yeah.
We've talked to 3 different people now from that company. So trying to line that up hopefully in the next month or so. But we did secure a bottle of that, and I'm excited. You've had some of that barrel bourbon.
Barrelcraft has got some good stuff.
Yeah,
Well-
similar. I bring that up because excited about it, but also what you're saying, like about they blend stuff.
Mm.
So it's all kind of relative, I think. You have something else?
No.
Okay. So this is the part of part 1 here where we're going to rate these things, right? So you rate 10 is the best. There's 3 different ratings. The whiskey, this is the rye whiskey here. And then you have the cigar, which is the Viva la Vida, and then the pairing. So 10's the best, and then give your reasons.
Yeah.
Sean, you want to chime in? Are you working? Ratings. Yeah. Whiskey, cigar, and the pairing. Is he live?
Mm-hmm.
Whiskey, I'll give I'm gonna do 8.5. Cigar, I'm gonna give a 9. And again, at first it was like really, really strong, but as I go on a journey with it, as I always say, the journey of the cigar.
Mhm.
That's my catchphrase. So,
Oh, it's going to be relative tonight, buddy.
Yep. It's gotten even better as I keep going with it, and then once I compare the two, they even got way better. So with the pairing, I'm going to give a 9 as well because I really think they complement each other. So enjoy.
Awesome.
I think we got lucky on the pairing.
Yeah.
Shannon, how about you?
Happy accident.
All right. So the whiskey, I'm liking it. Like I said, I'm not the biggest rye guy. I don't know a ton about rye. I'm digging this. It seems no more sweet than spice, which I like. The spice is okay because it hits and it goes away quick. So I'm gonna give that an 8.5. The cigar I'm really digging. I love the taste, the texture, the construction. It started out really strong and it kind of mellowed out. and it complements the whiskey really well. So I'm gonna go 8.5. In the pairing, I'm kind of with Sean. I'm gonna go with a 9. They complement each other. It's one's not beating up the other.
Yeah.
It does bring out a little more sweetness of the whiskey, but it's not over the top. So it's like enjoyable. So I'm gonna go with a 9 on that one.
Nate, you want to go or you want me to go?
I'll go.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. I know we've switched it up recently.
Sure.
But, no, I'm right there with Shannon. Whiskey, 8.5. You know, I made sure to have several sips of it before lighting up the cigar, and it was different than what I was expecting in my mind, given it was 100% rye. I was the one note that really surprised me on the palate was that red apple. And you talked about getting apple and pear on the nose.
Yeah.
Which I got some of that, but getting some of that red apple on the palate as well was not something I was expecting from 100% rye at 100 proof.
What'd you expect? Spice?
I was expecting more spice. Perhaps, maybe a little bit more sweetness to it. Almost like a light honey or butterscotch type of sweetness.
Well, Sean mentioned you got a little butterscotch from it.
I definitely was not expecting, caramel or anything like that. But that red apple is really what stood out to me. And that was a nice flavor to actually get because I haven't gotten that in a whole lot of whiskeys. So I was pleasantly surprised by the flavor on the palate, and then the finish, just lasts and lasts. Very long finish. That spice kind of lingers around. But it's not an overwhelming spice. It's just an enjoyable product. So 8.5 on the whiskey. On the cigar, 8.25. There we go.
I was going to say, we can do
I'm
math for you.
I'm going to split hairs.
I put up on the screen also from
Yes.
Jonathan Herring. He put up the countries that it's in. Of course, Ray says that's 15. So maybe they've gotten into a couple more, but up on the screen there, I'm not going to read them off. So, but yeah, it is mostly the Caribbean, and then Jonathan says the Dutch.
Yeah, there are some European places as well.
Sorry, go ahead. Cigar. You said
8.25. 8.25 on the cigar. Definitely great construction. Good flavor to it. Doesn't necessarily blow me away. It's not like there's a lot of flavor, but it's not a heavy flavor that just sits on the palate. Doesn't necessarily coat your palate like some, but it's definitely an enjoyable cigar. And then the pairing, I think, this was a happy accident.
Sure.
I think it bumps it up a little bit, and I give the pairing a 9.
Yeah.
That means a lot of different things when you say happy accident. Not typically this.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but going into it,
No, I know.
is this what we were expecting this to be? Like,
No.
I mean,
I'm really pleasantly surprised with this bottle. I've enjoyed the Uncle Nearest products that I've had. I do like the story. I like the, and then to hear how well they're doing, it's beyond just a story. I think it's something that this business is being run very aggressively. Now, when you say over $100 million in annually at this point, hopefully within 5 years they're well beyond that break even mark, and they're now in the right side of that equation, right? So I don't doubt that they had a lot of investments, whether it be the people involved, where they came from as far as that goes, or if they did have outside investors. But it's cool to see how well they are doing. I'll give the whiskey. I'm right there with you guys. I'll give it an 8. I think it's a great bottle. You said $60, $59.99,
$59.99,
which is typically about what the MSRP is, because Ohio is a state-run liquor agency, so it's typically what you see. If this isn't very highly sought after, you should be able to find it, I'd imagine, because it's not a rare bottle. It's not like something that the flippers are getting, into the secondary. You would imagine you're going to be coming in around that similar price, $60, right, give or take. Typically not much less than that, but I think that you're going to find that. So for that price, 8 is a good pairing. It's not going to be for everyone. I mean, to Shannon's point, he's not normally a rye guy. So, I mean, it's not something that you're going to necessarily go out and grab for $60. It's not a no-brainer for like $30, half that price. But I think it's a really pleasant bottle, and I had no idea what to expect from it. So, and especially when I took that first nose of it, I didn't know what to expect from the flavor, and I've been pleasantly surprised. So I think it's a very enjoyable bottle, and I would absolutely encourage you guys to try it. At the very least, if you see it at a bar, get a pour of it and see if you think it's something you want to bring home to your own bar.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely try it.
Yeah. The cigar, this cigar also not for everyone. This is a full-bodied, medium full-bodied, very strong flavored cigar. It's not going to be for everyone. For what it's intended to be, I'd give the cigar an 8.5. This is something that not many people know about, and it's a shame whether it's under their brand, boutique brand, as far as that goes, the ADT, or if it's going to be something that AJ put out on his own. Even if it said AJ Fernandez, this is not something that everyone's going to gravitate towards or smoke again because it's not for everyone. But for all intent and purposes that they're trying to do something with this, definitely 8.5. I think this cigar is solid. The construction's solid. The appearance is solid. The flavor it's not the most complex cigar, but again, we also are drinking this. So again, we're not going to be if you read reviews on this, that this is all that they are doing, smoking this in water or their normal drink, you might get a little bit more of an honest review of what the cigar is. But for what we're doing, as we've smoked it, and I've smoked it before, I'd give it 8.5 because it's a lot. It's a lot going on, but it's not complex as you go through it. I didn't get a whole lot of changes.
I guarantee if any humidor manager leads with this is an AJ blend, I think it will actually push it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's, to that point, that's when you have a whole humidor of cigars, that's another step that it takes the staff to push it. And when you have all the other competition on the shelf, I mean, that sometimes isn't in the best interest of that business, right? To do that. But you're absolutely right. Someone comes in, you have it in your humidor already, to sell, and they come in, I'm looking for something like full bodied, something new I haven't had before. This would be one that could be something you say, absolutely. Well, do you like AJ Fernandez stuff? Yes or no, or I don't know. And then you say, well, this is something that made by AJ Fernandez. It's for a boutique company. You don't really see AJ on it, but this is something that if you haven't had it before, I definitely recommend you trying it. If you like fuller bodied Nicaraguan, if you like a little bit of spice, you like those things we talked about tonight, I would definitely recommend you trying this. Again, I wouldn't say this is just a blind box buy, but this is something that the gesture size came in a 5-pack. I'd do a single or a 5-pack of this if you like that kind of stuff, especially if you like AJ Fernandez.
I agree with that.
The pairing, I'm going to give an 8. I think it's a good pairing. It is as Nate said, a happy accident, which again, I think the terminology is used for some other life situation, but this is a less important life situation when we're just doing this on Wednesday night. We're not explaining it to a
don't
young
know what
person.
you mean, Steve.
Okay. But I give it an 8 because it is everything you guys said. I'm not going to repeat all that, but it brought us some sweetness from the rye. And again, I think it paired really well because they stood up to each other. And I think it did complement the cigar, complemented the whiskey possibly better than the whiskey complemented the cigar because it didn't really change the cigar for me.
No.
So the cigar stood up stronger to the rye, but I think it is something that it's been an enjoyable, and I will say the only real kind of journey, like Sean likes to use, is that we had the whiskey before lighting up. You lit up the cigar. It did change the whiskey, the pairing. The cigar really didn't change.
I agree with that. Yeah, cigar didn't change.
Yeah.
This, like you said, the whiskey got a little bit sweeter.
Yeah. So that's why I give it an 8. I think this is a good pairing. This pairing, I will say, and the cigar itself, I wouldn't recommend the cigar for the first part of your day or maybe the first cigar you smoked. If you're just having one and it's this isn't a breakfast cigar for everyone unless you really just like a dark roast coffee that's got a little bitterness to it and you're like, I need something to stand up to it.
It's a good after lunch cigar.
Yeah. The whiskey is not a morning whiskey. And we always laugh about that, but there are some whiskeys
Yeah.
that have like sweetness, got the butterscotch and everything else that you can almost like pour over your pancakes at sometimes. And there are some ryes, and not encouraging this, or I've never done it actually. I that's the truth.
Look me in the eyes and say that.
I'm gonna look everyone in the eyes because they can't look me back. No, I've never done it. But you bring up like the Peerless Rye. That's one that sometimes you get that kind of maple. You get the things that you would think that like, dude, this would go really well
Peerless
over, like,
was insane,
over pancakes.
Like I said, I'm not a rye guy, but when we had that night, I was like, holy shit. Yeah, it was good.
So that's our ratings, guys. Stick around for part 2. I've been having on the screen there our sponsors here, Tinderbox at Easton, where this cigar is available, as well as other AJ Fernandez cigars are available. The Smoking 10 event is March 18th. It's Saturday this year in Columbus, Ohio. We have people coming from different states again, all over Ohio, and obviously local to Columbus, Ohio. It is capped at 250 tickets. We've got 12 plus companies coming. You're going to get 14 plus cigars, brunch and lunch on special menus there. Huge raffle, 50 to 100 prizes, capping again at 250 people. And the sales table again is going to be, I always joke about it. It's like we could easily run a commercial with like Brian, the owner of Tinderbox, in a straitjacket and say he's lost his mind type thing. You know what I mean? Like you've seen those type of commercials, and you throw this up. This is the retail price, and this is what we're selling it for just that day. Come to the tent. Those are the type of deals that are going to be there. Bye. Yeah, exactly. Brian's gone crazy. So that's definitely where we're at with that. But tickets are still available. Contact Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Or you can always contact us at the podcast, and we'll point you in the right direction. Altadis USA, we're going to be lighting up a Monte Cristo Nicaragua series next, also made by
AJ Fernandez.
There you go. There's a reason I picked that.
He's a nice guy.
He's pretty talented. BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available now as well. Gold is made by Placencia, and the silver is made by Espinosa, who will also be at the Smoking 10 event March 18th. And you guys, I'm going to throw them up on the screen here. Patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast to do a monthly contribution. If you don't want to do a one-time contribution, we appreciate all the support. Share it too, but Venmo's at Bourbon and BS. If you guys want to do it financially, or if you just want to share it, tell a friend about it. That's how this community grows and the show grows. And we appreciate that. And that brings me to also the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook, 16 to 1,700 members strong. It's fantastic. Love that community page. And it's people that smoke cigars, that drink bourbon, and there's also members of that just love the community and they like seeing all that stuff.
The thing I love about the BS community is not crotch shots.
Yeah, very few crotch shots. There's a few people that we have to like remind, like you can't sell or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just about it's a continuation and extension of the podcast, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great.
Last but not least, buyjack.com/bourbon and BS for any of the swag you guys want to get for the BS Cigar Company, or also obviously the podcast as well, including hoodies, 3/4 like I have, and then t-shirts as well. A lot of stuff on there. Very easy. You touched me weird. Guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Stay tuned for the annual Valentine's Day episode. We've got a little special guest, and we are going to be talking about relationships and everything that is involved in those and someone's special journey starting forward. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. For those that are listening
Well, so
live,
I did find out some more information about the head of Uncle Nearest.
okay.
So
This is where you guys, if you need to hit the restroom or if you want to listen to Nate, obviously, we're going to rearrange the set. We're going to do all that. So go ahead and keep talking here.
So the lady that is the CEO of Uncle Nearest Distillery, Fawn Weaver, she actually started her own special events and public relations company in 1994. She was a restaurant and real estate executive.
She might be investing in her own company.
But what's really cool is how the distillery came to be. Prior to the distillery opening, she was actually researching a book, and she was going to be writing a book called Uncle Nearest Foundation, which was a foundation that she had started.
Yeah.
And so she was trying to find descendants of Nathan Green in order to get information for her book. And that was the year prior to the company actually starting. The first book she ever published was in 2014, and it was a nonfiction paperback, debuted number 3 on the New York Times list. And it was called Happy Wives Club, One Woman's Worldwide Search for the Secrets of a Great Marriage.
That's
and-
what we're talking about.
Yeah, and exactly. It's amazing, right? She also ended up writing books called The Argument Free Marriage, 28 Days to Creating the Marriage You've Always Wanted to Others with the Spouse You Already Have.
Nice.
So, yeah, she...
Scoot over a little bit.
Yeah, so she was a restaurant exec. She was a real estate exec. She was an author. She was a philanthropist. She had started a foundation that actually gives scholarships to people that are descendants of Nathan Green. I'm getting there. I'm just trying to talk while. But no, like
Stagehand too here.
she had kind of basically started this entire journey long before she ever started the distillery. And so it's another happy accident, I'll say, that she was interviewing people for the book about Nathan Green and descendants of his, and that is what led her to then start the distillery. So it's kind of crazy. I don't know, Shannon, if you heard all that, but
I heard some of it. Come on over, baby girl.
Sit at the big boy table.
oh,
Let's see. I'll use his.
I
You ready
heard
for
that,
this?
Sean.
You ready for this, Miss Shan?
I guess. I don't know what I'm in for, but
Yeah, so now we have Shannon and Shannon. Shannon squared, as we like to call them.
Well, at least she makes us look better. She brings up the
Uh,
hotness level.
Well,
What's
we
your black and miles?
You bring the pack over here.
so
yeah. Oh, maybe
what
not.
I'm going to do, so that way the audience can see you, is you and I are going to switch mics.
Okay. Short.
It's empty.
It's in my purse. You can just grab it out of my purse.
So, Steve, we switched mics, so that way,
Okay.
because this mic was covering her entire face. So,
We don't want that.
So this is how you can just tap it. You can see what's going on.
I don't have glasses.
All right.
I can see nothing. I'm going blind.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Gotcha, Steve. Like the last one.
That's all you need.
I didn't realize you were taking a picture until I heard you say one. I was like, oh shit.
That's a good pick, man.
Just go ahead and crop Steve and I out of it, and
No, dude.
Hell no.
well, no, if you crop us out of it, then it can be a Christmas card for you guys.
If you keep us in, it can be a Christmas card.
Well, I can send it to you and then you can crowd it yourselves.
Hell no. I wouldn't crop these fools out.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys.
That's right. Let's be your inspiration for your guys' own podcast.
Oh, dude, you could definitely do one.
Just saying. Don't forget about us, the little guys.
So when you speak straight into it, they're and
I'm gonna lower it so that way it's more.
if you're talking to
Say
When she's right
test,
there,
test.
Yeah, go ahead and speak into the mic.
Test, test, test.
That's pretty good.
Good.
Should be good.
Yeah, we'll see what we'll see.
That's right. Are you guys ready?
Are you ready?
I don't know. I just live here.
Someone
All right.
pass me that bottle so I can get ready for part 2.
There we go.
Part you?
me or you.
That's you.
You don't have your number, so I'll send it to you in a message form.
That's fine.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 258, part 2, Beyond the BS. We just finished up part 1 if you're listening to the audio, so make sure you click over to that. We have the reviews of the conversation about the Uncle Nearest Rye, which is a newer offering from Uncle Nearest Distillery, or it's what's the actual distillery called? What's on top there?
Uncle Nearest?
No, it's at the
Nearest Green Distillery.
Nearest Green, because that was his nickname.
Yeah.
Nearest Green Distillery. Definitely check that out and listen to what we have to say about that, as well as the Viva la Vida, which is made by AJ Fernandez. Tougher to find cigar, but definitely worth your while if you listen to part 1, and we appreciate the support. And yeah, fantastic. Just briefly, because we go over it in part 1 a lot, I don't want to bore people that are listening online and live and watching the video, but you can always scrub past this. But appreciate all the support from you guys. Patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. And there's 3 different tiers you guys can do on that, and you can stay on there as long as you want. We appreciate that continued support. Helps us keep this thing going for you guys as well. And then also one-time contribution on Venmo at Bourbon and BS. So we appreciate all of that. And then check out, if you're in the area or if you don't have a local brick and mortar, Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They're holding their Smoking 10 events, the 10th annual Smoking 10 event, coming up on Saturday, March 18th. And that is going to be something that tickets are available now, but they are limited. So do not wait if you're able to do it. I liked some of the conversation in the middle of this. You know, like Ray Cheshire said that he came all the way from where he's at in Vietnam to come to last year's. He planned a trip to see some family and friends.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Bobby Hirschman, who's in Philly, who's a part of the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook, and his buddies. And we had Sean Anderson from Tennessee. A lot of people from the community that came in last year, which I understand you can't do it every year. That was kind of like the big kickoff event after everything that had gone down.
Yeah.
That people were just like, let's go, you know, because we started the community, started the podcast 5 years ago almost. Started the community in 2019, right before, it was actually October, right before everything was shut down. So this was like the first thing since we've started the community that we have all these people from all over the country and elsewhere in the world that they were able to come to that event. So
last year was awesome.
yeah, it was just a great, it was almost like a reunion feeling, because
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
these people you talked to, you haven't seen in a while kind of feeling, but you may not have even met them in person. And it was just great to get everyone together. So check that out. $200 plus tax. Those tickets are available. You get a lot for your money, and it is a great party. Saturday, March 18th. Also, Altadis USA, Monte Cristo, Nicaragua series, also made by AJ Fernandez, is what we're going to be smoking next. And then also the BS Cigar Company, which is home to Tinderbox at Easton, but that's available as well. The gold and the silver, fantastic cigars. Some of the best sellers at Tinderbox at Easton. The gold's made by Plasencia Tobacco, and the silver's made by Espinosa. And if you want some swag for the show or the company, BS Cigar Company, buyjack.com. That's byjack.com/Bourbon and BS for any of the shirts, hoodies. Nate's got it on. He got a little chilly, it looks like. The black camo with the barrelhead logo of the Bourbon and BS, which I love that logo. So check that out.
It's a great logo.
Yeah. Shout out to Larry Schumann, who will also be at the 10 event. All right, so we've been joined by someone else. Shannon, would you like to introduce our 4th person at the panel here?
Absolutely. So to my immediate left is my beautiful wife, Shannon Marie Chapman. The love of my life.
You've told this story
Jeez.
on the show before, which is awesome.
Yeah, she's got a lot of insight. She's the one that keeps me grounded and keeps me moving forward in life.
Absolutely. That's all you want to
Thank
say.
you. Thanks for the intro.
Never talked to me that sweet.
Well,
Right?
we got to go home together. So I got
You're about to spend a
Yeah.
lot of time together.
Yes, we are.
Shannon was on the show not too long ago. It's last 4 weeks?
2 or 3, yeah, 3.
Yeah, in the last month or
Whatever
so, talking about his journey that's coming up here. And so that night, I was like, we got to get you both on, Shannon and Shannon on. You guys are leaving your, I'd say, comfortable living here.
Yeah.
In the last, Shannon has been on the show before talking about, obviously, way back. He talked about his story and his life, which was a great inspirational show. And I loved that topic. We had a lot of great feedback on that. Then we had you on, obviously, multiple times talking about, how with the COVID shutdowns and everything else, and you're changing of careers and everything. You had things kind of going smoothly. Finally, after everything opened back up, and you guys are like,
Let's change it up.
Why not?
Let's get an
change it
RV
up.
and go.
it's been a good 6 to 12 months of like smooth sailing. So why don't we just
Yeah.
do something else? And so what other better way to do an annual Valentine's Day episode, which is what the topic is tonight. And every year I love this show because it's different every year, but we're kind of be inspired by your guys' story. But I remember saying to Shannon that a couple weeks ago, saying, you know, it's going to be interesting. And I know you guys have thought about it, but it's like people, you know, in the last few years, there were a lot of complications in relationships because, and in just individual lives, because you had to be home. You had to be, if you were in a relationship, you were married or whatever, you lived with someone, you were on top of each other, which the normal thing is someone or both go to work, the kids go to school. You know, it's like you have this kind of in and out of the home, and the way things went, like that wasn't an option. And
especially with my career, I was furloughed. I was shut down for 2 months, so I had nothing to do for those 2 months. We were shut down, and it was just me and her and the dog.
Yeah. Now, luckily, though, my job, I was working all the time. So I was actually going out during COVID, during the shutdown. So he was home by himself.
Yeah.
And
Going crazy.
Absolutely
I was out and
nuts.
about every day as well. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely different.
You were my neighborhood pusher, so I appreciate that.
Easy. Yeah, I haven't had any driveway sales recently.
Not in the last few years.
Not in the last, yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is something that you guys have this thing going, and you started talking about how you guys are doing what, and I'll let you explain it, of where you guys are going starting next week.
So this weekend it starts. So about a year ago, I decided I was going to open my own barber shop. So I think most people know that I'm a barber, and so we decided that I wanted open my own barber shop. We were looking in Bellefontaine. I talked with all the guys up there. We picked out the spot. We had all the stuff lined up, and I came home from one of the meetings. Me and the wifey were sitting there talking, and we love to travel. We love to go out. We do a lot of adventure camping. And she brought it up. She's like, well, if you start this business, we'll be locked down while you build the business and all this other stuff. We won't be doing a lot of things. I was like, yeah, you're right. And then she brought up this idea about buying an RV.
I don't know why you keep saying it was mine.
It was your idea.
It was not my
And it
idea.
starts.
We came up together. This was a
Here we
mutual
go.
decision.
Happy Valentine's Day.
I regret everything I set up tonight.
I regret nothing.
Maybe this is for the best. Maybe
We came to an agreement.
You're
Yes.
live right now.
We came to an agreement.
But you laid this thing
Plan
upon
out.
me
Yes.
that maybe if we want to do this with the RV, could be something special. So I thought about it, and she supported me no matter what my decision was.
Absolutely. I was ready to move to Bellefontaine.
Yeah, we were going to move to Bellefontaine, start this shop, the whole nine. And then we talked about this whole RV life, and it's something we really enjoy, we really love. And we thought about it, we talked about it, and I decided, screw the shop, let's just go enjoy life. And so we created a plan.
Yes.
And it's almost a year. It's past a year now. We decided this in January a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we put this plan together, and here we are a year later. As of this Friday, we hit the road. So here we go, babe.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Whew.
You better be.
Do I have a choice?
You do.
You still have
I mean,
a choice. You haven't.
we haven't pulled out yet. So
Right.
Is this the timeline that you guys had in mind? Like, did you think it was going to take, 13 months or?
Yeah, we had a timeline of a year.
yeah,
Okay.
we gave ourselves a year just really to plan. We had to sell everything.
Yeah.
Like literally everything we own is in our RV, and we have very few things in a storage facility that really at this point we could probably just get rid of. And so there was the whole planning of that. There was the whole planning of finding an RV or what we were going to travel in. And that was a big step. So there was a lot of big milestones that we had to hit in order to sort of be able to do this. And putting a date on the calendar really was like, okay, this is where we want, when we want to leave, and sort of trying to make all of those milestones hit along the way.
Did you
Yeah.
have like a timeline and a date for each one
So
of those
we
milestones, or
put
was it
up-
just the big goal? That was your milestone. Work out everything
We
else.
put
in
up
between?
a thing on the wall said full-time RVing by 2023.
That was our goal, was to do it by 2023. But we also had the expectation that if it didn't happen in the time that we wanted to, we could still be flexible. We were still, hey, if this isn't gonna, we're not gonna get this thing that we need to do in order to go, that's okay. Like there wasn't like a huge, like
Yeah, it
we
wasn't a
have
hard
to
date.
leave right now.
Mhm. What was the hardest part? What was the hardest step? From when you started the journey last January to 2 days from now actually leaving. Like, what was the hardest thing to actually get off the checklist?
The hardest step was literally me.
Not the answer I was expecting, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
no. It's
How
it's-
so?
I spent all this time changing careers, building this new career in my barbershop, having all these amazing clients.
Mhm.
It was hard for me to wrap my brain around walking away from it.
Yep.
Because I put so much time and effort into learning a new craft, learning all this stuff, putting in the time to build my books,
Mhm.
to the point where my books are insane and I love it. And that was the hardest part. And I would tell her all the time, like, this is the hardest part for me, is walking away from what I just built.
Yep.
This is a short period of time.
And
Like,
yes.
don't. I mean, you
Yeah.
say you're full.
3
You
years.
know, you're basically booked.
No, this is 3 years of building a business, and it's at a point right now where it's exploding, and I have amazing people that I take care of. And that was literally the hardest part. And we'd always talk about it. I would always express to her, like, I'm willing and ready to do this, but this is the part that's really weighing hard on my heart.
Walking away from all that work.
Yeah.
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 Well, and those people too, right? I mean, like you're in a service that is very, very personal.
Yeah,
Being a barber.
absolutely.
Guys, especially primarily male customers. Yeah. I mean, you always had like your barber, right? There was a time I don't think that most guys really like, they just want to make sure you didn't like mess up their hair. You know what I mean? But in like more comparable, more females would be, they have their hairstylist, they have their people that they have to go to, and then they leave or retire, and you're like, what am I going to do now? And you're like, well, you just go to another, like, we'd say like, just go to another stylist. Like,
It
I mean, like,
doesn't work like
does
that.
someone else work there? Like,
Yeah.
but
It's not the same.
it's because there's a trust there. And I think that, the barbering has gone back kind of full circle to the clients you have. I mean, they're loyal to you.
Absolutely.
And I think that you're leaving kind of these people that have quickly gained trust in your work and your personality. They trust you. And that's where I think this is something that people don't always realize. That I don't realize it because I self-care here. People like
I feel you there.
barbers have said like, why don't you come in? And like, no,
For what?
I got it. I mean, yeah, you can probably do my beard a little bit better than I can. But again, I'm self-taught, just out of necessity. And
what I was blown away with
lack of
when I
requirements.
started telling my clients, I literally started telling them last March. So we decided this in January. And I didn't really let it out of the bag until about March or April of last year. I started telling people this, and they're like, oh my God, that's incredible. And they're all praising it. And, but that's just all talk for a year. But when it came down to these last 2 weeks, I could not believe the outpouring of support and love from my clients. and they know me, you know, so they're all bringing me bottles of bourbon, cigars as going away gifts. And we're talking about grown ass men as I get done with their last haircut. You know, we're saying their goodbyes and they give me these big old monster bear hugs. Like, you don't, I guess I didn't realize how much of an impact I guess I had on people because it's just lighthearted. It's always
enormous.
fun.
Some tear shed, I bet.
My little clients, my young
Those
guys.
little kids were crying.
Did you shed a tear yet?
Yes. I've had
He's
some
a
of
big old
my
teddy bear.
He turns it. Yeah, the young ones really did.
the
Yeah.
young kids when I'm like, hey, you know, this is probably the last time I'll see you, and they
Mm.
looked at me with their eyes and they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And they give me these big old hugs and they got tears and I got tears. I'm like,
Yeah.
and their mom standing there. I'm like, it was crazy, but I loved every moment of it.
Was there any doubt that the end goal was going to happen
No,
No,
at any point?
no,
no,
no
not
doubts.
at all.
No doubts. Anxiety, yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
for
sure you're
sure.
still experiencing
But I mean,
that.
Anything,
for sure, because it's the unknown, right? There's so
Yeah.
many things that can go wrong, but we always have that. You know, we could get out there and we might hate it, and you know, we can always come back. You know, it's
It's the
not
nice
something
thing about having a home on wheels.
right. There's not, you know, it's not like
We
you
don't have
know,
to sell it to
this
move.
is something that's like, you know,
Just put it in gear.
forever.
Yeah.
You know, it might be. We might get out there and we
Well,
might.
you might find a new home.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? At
exactly.
least you have, you know, where you're at now in Columbus, Ohio area, you have a lot of friends and family, and you know, you can always, this is a place to come back and visit.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's something that a lot of people sometimes do and sometimes they don't do, or they want to, and then time goes by like, man, we haven't seen these people in you know 4 or 5 years. That's okay too, you know. But it's cool that you're doing it because you might find a new place to put it in park, maybe buy a property, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like Ray Cheshire said, I mean, it's like, I can't say it enough. Who does that? It takes so much courage to do what they're doing, but the upside has to be phenomenal. You know, the fact that you guys are doing it, and when Nate asks, you know, was there doubt? The fact you said no, that's rare. That's rare, especially Shannon, you bringing up the fear of the unknown. Like, it is the unknown. Things can happen, you know, like
Yeah.
things, there's levels of this. There's levels. It's like, oh, well, you know, the RV can break down on the side of the road, or we could be at a campground or where we're at, and, you know, we need a major repair. And like, did we budget for this? And then there are the levels that I brought up to Shannon here the last time he was on. I was like, what does the day-to-day look like when it's the two of you? And I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm saying it's like, that's when Nate asked the question, it's like, is there any doubt? I'm looking at it as like, if we got the finances covered, I'm not worried about repairs or, you know, something happens. It's more of the life-changing part of it.
Yeah.
You know, you guys have been, you know, married and in a relationship for a long time. And, you know, Shannon shared on previous episodes about, you know, his life and, you know, the growth that has happened, the security you guys have in each other in this journey is what I think what Ray's hitting on is that's the most impressive part. It's not selling off like all your shit and like, okay, like we were, you guys were living with friends for a while, which that was a big lifestyle change because you couldn't just come and go as you please as much as they said, oh yeah, do whatever you want. It's like, you can't. It's not your
But
place.
That's also part of the journey too,
Sure.
is that really set us up for success to do this. You know, that was part of like one of those milestones because, you know, it gave us a place to just sort of sit for a minute and soak all of this in and sort of take it all in and decide if, you know, is this going to work?
Yeah.
Do we have the everything that we need in order to do this?
Yeah, shout out to Larry and Debbie because they stepped in. She came home one night hanging out with Debbie. She walked into our house and was like, "Hey, Debbie said we can live with them," and da 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 da. I was like, "Ain't no fucking way!" Like I
Why? Why'd you say that?
Because you're going into somebody else's domain, their
You're a grown
lifestyle.
couple.
Yes.
You're not.
It's not like we're going
you're
home to
not-
live with mom and dad.
Even you don't want to do that now unless
Yeah.
you had to.
But shout out to them because they have a very lovely life. They need nothing in life. So they opened up their house to us and allowed us to live there rent free.
Mm-hmm.
The whole nine. They said, this is our way of helping you achieve the next step in your journey.
Yeah.
And it took me a few days to really wrap my brain around that. And at first I was like, we can't do that because I don't want to impose on people. That's just it felt weird to me. But after we sat down and talked to them, we had dinner with them and they laid it all out and it worked out perfectly.
Yeah. And I think that was because they've really believed in us
Mm-hmm.
and believed in what we were doing and felt like this was something that was more than just us deciding to go travel in an RV. Part of Shannon's story, when he really decided he wanted to be a barber, part of that vision was traveling as a barber.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he started that Instagram handle years ago.
Right. As the roaming barber. And so they really believed in the vision of what we want to accomplish and what we want to do out there. And, they opened their home and they were so generous, to us. And that was a big part of the success of us being able to take off on Friday.
There has to be some practicality to a plan like that. As big as what people listening to the story, they think like, oh, you guys just like up when you meet new people on the road. Oh, so you just up and moved? No, there's some practicality to the plan, right? And so we do have some people out here. Is that first of all, Jonathan Herring says he wants a haircut when you get to Houston, so you already have a client there.
We'll be in Texas, brother. Don't worry about
Yes,
that.
And Jonathan Herring is also flying up for the 10 event as an attendee. He used to be a rep in this area, and he loves the community so much that he's like, I'm coming up for the event. So that's amazing. But then also Ray asked, I'm going to throw a couple of these things out here. Ray says, is there a scheduled route around the U.S., which I think you guys, again, you have some plan.
Yep.
And then Ann Dimmick says, so what's the plan? So I think that's the two layers there is that, what's the route? And then what are you guys going to do?
Yeah.
It's not just picking up and leaving and going to these different places. Like what is the day to day? What are we doing?
This?
Sure. So part of this plan in getting everything going was I would have to find a remote job. And so I found a remote job, which thank God I did, and I love it. And so this will allow us to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a remote job. And so the plan is we're going to leave on Friday. We're doing a camping event this weekend with a group that we always go camping with. And then on Sunday, we're leaving and going to South Carolina. So we're going to travel down to South Carolina. We thought it was going to be very cold in February. So we're like, we want to get out of here for the wintertime. My dad lives in South Carolina.
Okay.
So we're going to go down there. We're going to do some repairs, some painting, just a little bit of updating on the inside. So this will allow us to go down there. And my dad's a diesel mechanic. He's going to go through the rig and just sort of just make sure that we're ready to go.
Get a little tune up.
Yeah, get a little tune up, make sure that we're road ready. And so we have to be back here in April. So we will be back in Columbus for about 2 weeks in April. And then that's sort of where it really takes off. And we're going to go up into Michigan for the spring. And so the idea is to find sort of a location and then be able to explore that area. So we're not traveling, every week or every day. We're sort of picking an area. We're going to be there for a couple weeks. Drop an anchor for
a little while, checking it out.
A little while, and then sort of just checking in, looking at the different sites. We'll be able to go camping and, sort of explore, not having to take the RV everywhere. So just finding that home base. So
and you're going to have another vehicle with you, right?
Yeah. So we're going to take my vehicle.
Okay. And you're keeping yours.
Yeah. I'm putting mine in storage tomorrow at my buddy's house, Josh Henry. Bless you, brother. Thank you. He's going to take care of my truck. We'll leave it here. We put a lot of work into her. She has an FJ Cruiser. We've outfitted it, put the rooftop tent on it. So we can still go out and do the off-grid camping, like deep in the woods or whatever we want to do, but still have that home base to come back to.
Yep. So we're going to spend this spring up in Michigan. So we're going to go.
Anne's asking where.
So we're going to go spend some time in Petoskey.
The UP.
We're going to go up to the UP.
Nice.
I spent a lot of time in Elk Rapids, Michigan, which is absolutely beautiful. And I want Shannon to see it and experience it. And the reason sort of why we're sticking around Michigan for a while is our friends that we lived with, they have a lake house in Michigan and want us to be there for 4th of July. So
there's a plan.
Right? There's a plan.
Yeah.
So then once we leave there, we're going to head out to Montana and spend the summer in Montana.
Jeez.
And then one of my bucket list items in New Mexico is the International Air Balloon Festival. It's this huge thing. And so
it's international. It's huge.
International. It's huge.
It's the biggest in the United States.
Well, it's international, so it's huge. People from all these different countries come in, and it's this huge air balloon festival.
Why is this on the bucket list?
Careful, the balloons don't get shot down.
All right, it's a sanctioned event.
Hey,
Not those kind of balloons.
I'm gonna put on the side of the rig when we roll in a Chinese balloon response.
Chinese balloon response team.
Why is that on the bucket list?
So
like air balloons? I mean, is that simple?
It's one of these things where you can actually go and volunteer, and you can, as a volunteer, they'll give you a free spot to park your RV.
Okay.
So I just thought it'd be something fun to do. There's a lot of people in an RV group that I belong to. We're talking about it, how fun it was. You just meet a lot of people.
Are you going to go up in an air balloon?
I don't know. I don't know what the
like
possibilities
if you're at
are.
a international
I mean, I wouldn't say no to it.
balloon festival. I feel like this
especially if it's a
should
bucket
be part.
list item.
That should be part of the bucket list.
Exactly.
That's why I was.
Yeah. So we are going to spend some time in New Mexico, head over to Texas, and then the plan is to end the year in for Christmas and New Year's in Louisiana, New Orleans area.
So jam-packed year.
Yeah. So I don't have 2024 scheduled out yet, but
And so she recommends. Is it Munising in the UP?
Munising. Yeah, Munising's beautiful. I was there in 2017. That's where the painted picture rocks are.
Okay.
And it's stunning.
My wife recommends going to Frankenmuth if you're up that way.
Christmas
isn't
all
that
year
the Christmas
round.
place?
Yeah, Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
My mom loves going up there.
We went up. So me and my overlanding group, we went up there in 2017 and camped all around the UP. And I remember they kept talking about going to Munising and doing this painted picture rock tour. And I fought them tooth and nail. I was like, I do not want to go and spend my time looking at freaking rocks.
It was like a 2-hour tour, wasn't it?
But
at least it's not 3 hours.
To see all over the,
You know what
the
happens
U.S.
then.
and he
But
spends time in the woods.
the caveat is we got on this gigantic freaking boat and did this 2-hour tour of the shoreline, and I absolutely freaking loved it. So I had to eat my words on that one. It was stunning. It was beautiful. And it was a great time.
Yeah.
Wow. Shannon.
Which one?
Knew that was going to happen.
Closest to me.
Mr. Shannon.
What is your day-to-day look like? What are you doing while you're out? So we talked about, other Shannon. You're right. Especially on the audio, when they listen to it on the podcast app, this could be confusing. But you've got this remote job, which obviously it sounds like it really fits into the plan, right?
Absolutely.
So it kind of makes you available to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But obviously Shannon, the other Shannon, you mentioned the fact that you have basically, you came in the shop today and you were like, yeah, so I'm pretty much unemployed today. So I figured I'd come in and have a smoke. You talked about leaving this, that that huge kind of changing of gears in your career. You know, you didn't mention tonight, but in previous, you drove trucks, you delivered stuff. You had 20 years?
About 27 years of a CDL Class A lifestyle.
Yeah, just a quick summary of the first episode I think you were on and telling your story. It's like, yeah, so you left that career and you went home to Shannon and said, I think I want to do something different. And you started this journey of being a barber, which for those that didn't listen to the episode yet, and I encourage you guys to go back and look at that and listen to that, is huge amount of time in barber school.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I started barber school February of 2019. I graduated January. I started my barber career February
January of 2020.
2020. I started in the barber shop in February. In 4 weeks and 1 day, I started the world shutdown.
Exactly. So that's so you fast forward through the COVID years, as I think it'll be called probably in history books at some point, and you developed this clientele and you had a fully booked schedule, and that's what you said. You're leaving that. So what are you going to be doing on this? We talked about the roaming barber, but do you have any kind of an outline of a plan? I mean, obviously a plan like that, I mean, you have some really kind of things you want to do, but that's a pretty big unknown as far as how that looks.
Yeah, so we had this talk, I don't know, like 3 or 4, maybe 5 months ago, and as we go, my part of it is going to be a developing part. Like when we roll into an RV park, I have a barber chair, I have everything with me. I'm going to set this up and try to cut hair and barber in RV parks and wherever I go. Maybe if we're in places for months at a time, I might try to go to a barber shop, be a walk-in barber. But we were talking about all this and why mine develops. I had I had such anxiety about my part of the plan because literally I'm making no money right now. She's the breadwinner at this point. And I finally came to her. I was like, look, as we start this journey, I don't want to be 6 months, 8 months down the road and you're working your tail off and you look over at me laying on the sofa, taking a nap, drooling all over myself, and you look at me and resent me for not working, like I used to, because I've never known a life without having a job. So
Sure.
this is yeah, exactly, scary. And I voiced that to her. I was like, I don't want you to look at me and resent me, 6 months into this, and like he's not pulling his weight or whatever. And she reassured me that, this is the plan. This is what we've looked forward to. She knows her part. I know my part. And I'm just going to be building my section of it as we make this journey, and mine's going to be all repairs on the RV, a lot of social media stuff I'll be handling. It's going to be a process. It's going to be a slow process, but
His new job title is social media manager.
Love it. Yeah. So Ray says this sounds like such an opportunity for a quote real life TV show, a reality show, but a real one on the road with Shannon and Shannon. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. And, you Shannon and I have talked about that. Obviously we want to check in on the podcast and maybe schedule a couple of check-ins with you guys as well. I would have no problem also, not only what you're smoking and drinking, but, just like kind of like a summary post that, on the community page, that would be at least a launching pad, to get some of that kind of like, how would I write this? It's almost like a journal or diary for both of you. But, for you, Shannon, you talked about kind of setting up, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. YouTube's still a really valuable thing, especially if you keep the bourbon and cigars out of it. But from your job standpoint, different campgrounds and setting up a camera, and that would be something where it's like, yeah, they're going to hopefully pay you for that. Don't do it for free, but pay you for the haircut. And you say maybe you have to look into how, what kind of waiver do I have to have that I don't have to blur out their face, you know what I mean? And create some sort of you said, social media, like an online presence there that you do this type of thing.
So my whole thing was, I really want a video. So of course I'm going to get the consent from whoever I'm cutting, but I want a video, the whole haircut. And I just want to talk about, like, say I met you or Nate at the RV park. I'm going to dive into who you are,
Yep.
what made you, what you're doing. I don't give a shit about the haircut. The haircut's not what I care about in these videos. It's more of
Well, for the future clients out there, he does care about the haircut.
maybe I do, maybe I don't. No, no, like they're going to get proper cuts, but I just believe there's so many life stories out there in this country of these people traveling and where they've come from. And just from what I've learned, just being in the barbershop the last 3 years, the stories I've heard have blown my socks off. Like literally, I had this little old man. He was in his 80s. He comes in, he's hunched over. He's like not struggling to walk, but he was struggling. We're sitting there talking, and I'm like, "Hey man, so what'd you do to pay the bills through your whole life?" And he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I'm a 4-star general in the Army." I about fell the freak over, dude. Like, these are the people I met. Like, just incredible people that have done amazing things in their life. And I think these are the stories that need to be told.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's what my goal is, to find these amazing stories and just put it out to the world. Like I'm going to be a second part of it. Like I don't even want to be part of it. I just want to focus on these people and just. So that's where my heart lies. I love talking to people. I love finding about their stories. I love knowing what makes people tick, and I just hope I can make that come across in this what I'm about to do. So that's
merely
what my
the
goal
conduit for their
Yeah.
stories.
Well,
absolutely.
if
Yeah.
anything that you might have learned, even like at our smaller eyes, I hope for your sake also that you do way bigger exposure than what we do on this podcast. I'd love to see us do that as well, but there are those things out there like a Patreon. Set
Mhm.
that up. You know what I mean? That's super easy to do. You put that on all the posts that you do. You even tell people about it in the campgrounds and stuff like that. I mean, there's obviously some opportunities for finances to come in as far as that goes, and they make it super easy when it comes to tax time. You know what I mean? That you can just do all that stuff and start an LLC, whatever you do.
Mhm.
But I mean, that is something that would be a learning experience of what we do in the garage here, and you've been a part of for so long, is you learn how the people do it on some of the social media where you set it up, and it's like, do you put mics on them? Do you get some of the wireless mics? Do you have a soundboard? Like, what does it take to not necessarily, it's about the content, obviously, but it's nice to be able to, like, well, you're at work, remotely, Shannon.
Mhm.
That day, instead of you drooling on the couch or coming in, it's like 5:00 and she's like, well, how was your day? And you're like, well, I went walking around. I had a bottle of bourbon and I smoked 3 cigars. And it's like, what are you doing now? And you're like, already having a bottle. Not saying it won't happen. It will happen. But it's like, you could, well, she's sitting there, you're editing a video.
Yeah.
You're doing all that, on that stuff. And some of the times to get it started, and again, is through the community or through whatever your social media presence is you throw those options out there that, people that want to support you, they will do that. That helps you kind of do that with people like your friends that took you in, that part of that plan.
Yeah.
There are things that you can do, I think, that would absolutely kind of, it's not going to be maybe a full-time job necessarily. And then it comes to the sponsors, and it comes to, things that, whether it be the barber, like the clippers and, different things that they could sponsor you and stuff like that. And you never know where it can go. But I think that it's something that you can obviously fill your time with.
Yeah.
By doing all that. Editing a video and doing all that stuff.
That's a lot.
That's a full-time
It is.
job. You could say a social media manager. I mean, that is something that you take, say you do your first haircut, and you're like, hey, do you mind if I do this? You're going to learn from it. How can I make this better? That I couldn't hear what they were saying. And then it's like, I don't know how to edit a video, so now I gotta like learn that part of it.
Oh, I got a lot to
there's-
learn.
Yeah,
So
but it's exciting.
I don't have like these preconceived notions. Like I know there's going to be a lot of failure, and I'm fine with the failure because that's just going to make me better. So up until maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I struggled. I was struggling, and I voiced it to her. I was struggling, walking away from everybody. This is where I grew up. This is where all my friends are.
Sure.
I was struggling with it hard. And then we had this big going away party with our friends, like my closest friends that I grew up with. And I remember we were driving to this party, and I was inside, I was freaking out because I was like, man, this is like saying goodbye. This is like this craziness. And I thought it was going to be this big shebang, like tears and whatever. But it was the most awesome party. Everybody was super chill. It wasn't like this big, like, goodbye stuff, And it put me at ease. It really did. And from that party, I've been at ease with everything. Am I going to miss everybody? Absolutely. Like, coming here, hanging out, coming up to the shop.
We'll have one less chair. It's fine.
But I'm after that party, I'm actually ready. I'm ready to launch. Like, I'm at ease with everything. I miss my family. I love them. They're crazy, but I love them.
Once again, you know where we're at,
Yeah.
and your house is on wheels.
Yeah.
Well, and one
So
of the
there's some pros there.
one of the messages I received was this doesn't have to be forever.
No.
Yeah.
Like, you can always come back. You can always
Yeah.
find
we,
another
we
place
might
to-
drive each other insane.
And that's something that I
You
brought
never
up.
know.
On last time
that
Shannon was
happened a
on.
lot over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I talked about in Mrs. Chapman. I talked about the last time you were on about me time. Remember that?
Yep.
And that was something that, again, like, jokingly, like, it might happen every once in a while, but you are working during the day while he's getting his feet wet and doing all this stuff. And again, I don't discount the fact that that Shannon's going to be really trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that would do this and then they just get frustrated and they're just like, you know what? Yeah, it's a nice day out wherever you're at, so, the Carolinas, Montana, or whatever. And you're just like, I'm just going to go out on a Wednesday and sit outside the camper and crack a bottle and light up a cigar. And I miss my friends. I'm going to FaceTime them, or I'm going to do a whatever, Facebook group with them. But it's like the me time, being on top of each other. How does that look for you?
So I think that the difference between us is I'm very introverted.
Okay.
So I need, I do need my me time. Right now, we, because it's cold out and you can't really be outside, but essentially your outside becomes an extension of your home because you're able to go outside and sit outside, go for walks, what have you. But the thing is, I really enjoy being with my husband. He's my best friend, and I would rather spend time with him than anybody else. And, just us sitting outside, not even talking, like we don't even have to talk. We could be sitting around a fire, and that recharges me.
That's impactful.
And so it's,
That's
we're going to be
powerful.
around each other a lot, but we like to be around each other. There's no one else I'd rather do this with. I don't need to be around a whole group of people. I do worry about him sometimes because
In what
I
way?
know.
Let's dial in there.
So, because he's such a extrovert, and being around people,
Sure.
really charges him up. And I know he's got, you guys that he hangs out with on Wednesdays. He has his men's group that he hangs out with on Thursdays. And I know how important that is to him. And so, I do worry that, that is going to affect him in a way that, might be negative. But then I also know that he's an extrovert and literally can talk to anyone.
That's right.
You sound exactly like my wife right now.
So I feel
Because
like
literally, my wife's texting me going, "Oh my gosh, she's me."
I get you, girl. I get you.
Well, no, about you being the introvert and
Yeah, no.
your husband being the extrovert and can talk to anybody.
Yeah. But the thing too with my job is that I don't have to go into the office. I don't have to be around people. So I can do my job and not have to, the energy from people is not sucked out of me. So by the end of the day, I'm not depleted.
Yeah.
I've had that time to be alone and do my job. So at the end of the day, even the weekends, like I feel like I'm more ready now to like go out and actually spend time with people because, I've had the time during the week to not have to expend that energy.
And you guys have had the time at like campgrounds and meeting new people and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's like you're not always at your camper. You might go over to someone else's in the area.
Well,
and
as
you meet
Shannon
people.
referred to it one time, the 6-hour rule, whatever, like where you guys would always try and go camping somewhere within 6 hours. There's a lot of area you can cover within 6 hours a year. So there's a ton of people you guys have met.
I think it's a valid concern, though. I mean, like you said, it'll be change, and I think again, where you guys are at in your relationship, it's as everyone keeps saying on the feed, it's very inspirational because you have that aspect of it where you say that he's your best friend, and I'm not gonna say it for Shannon, but I think that it's pretty reciprocal, and I think that's something that there are a lot of people that couldn't do this on their own unless they're at a certain age or they're trying to find themselves. That's not necessarily the case here. You're doing it together, and it's great to have that understanding of how those different aspects kind of build into that relationship. And you already know that we all know it's not going to be smooth sailing.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Like any relationship, let alone the circumstances and the journey you guys are going on, it's not always easy. There will be arguments. There will be one party that will close off. There'll be one party that tries to pry too much. But the fact that you guys are doing this at this stage, and the thought that you have put into this journey is, I think, the true inspirational part for me, and I think some people out there as well, that you know what you're getting into, even with the unknown.
We're gonna do it anyway.
The nuts and bolts and what's really important, that part.
Yeah.
Well, in 3 days, that's what I was looking at the calendar here. 3 days, we'll be together 18 years.
17.
Oh, come on now. 18. Cause
I think it's 17. I don't know.
I'm giving extra.
Seems like forever. It seems like
It
just
seems
yesterday.
like
It's not their
18.
first fight.
No.
But
Put
I don't
money on that
know.
one.
We've been together so long that, we bicker and stuff like that. But we don't have like these big knockdown, drag out arguments. We bicker, we talk about it, we work it out, and it's done.
Yeah. And even then, it's really not like, it's not that much, or it's not that like it could be, it's probably something stupid. It's nothing serious.
Yeah.
That's typically what it is.
But to kind of build off what Steve was talking about, when you guys are going to be stuck together in a 40-foot RV, it's not like you're in a house where you can each go to your own room, or someone can go to the basement and hang out. So when you're stuck in that small of a living quarters, and you've got one bedroom, one shower, like, how do you handle conflict when there's nowhere to go?
I guess I'll take a I'll take a hike with the grizzly bears. I don't know.
A lot of these campgrounds.
Wait, you're saying that's safer?
A lot of these campgrounds, there are
Could be.
communal showers. If I'm not
She's
mistaken.
from Philly, bro.
What was the comment someone posted on here? I love this. Yeah, so Scotty. I can't see that on there. Let's see if I can put it up there. Yeah, that's it.
As long as your journey doesn't turn into a Dateline mystery show, you two will be just fine.
Billy loves you. Thank you.
If that does happen, I'll be the one buried.
Well,
Oh, we
Oh
know
yeah,
that.
you're
We
searching
know
for
that.
him
the good
for
news
sure.
is true crime is good too. You know, it's a really hot
Oh yeah,
topic.
Yeah.
You know
true
what I mean?
crime
So,
sells.
yeah,
I will leave my location services on so everybody can check on me.
we got him. We got
I'm
him an air
turning that
tag.
shit off.
Every time you get to a new city, your voicemail message should be where you last were. So,
Checking in again at the new campground.
Oh my goodness. No, yeah, I understand that, and I think what we're doing, we're on the same page with everything. And if comes a point where we need to separate or whatever, and we actually just talked about this.
Yeah.
She brought up the point that said, hey, if there's ever a point in this journey where one of us, either me or her, are not feeling it, we're not enjoying it, we have to voice it and figure out why we're not enjoying it and fix that, or come home.
Yeah.
So
Definitely putting those sort of boundaries and check-ins in place.
Well, communication's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you close off on a journey like that, it's bad enough when you live in the same place and you have a life going together. But if you guys are doing what you're doing, obviously it's everything's just cranked up.
Yeah.
Because if you stop communicating and you have too many conversations or comments where it's like, is everything all right? Or what's wrong? No, everything's fine. And that's where the conversation ends.
Yeah.
That's
an
a
issue
killer
right
to
there.
any relationship, right?
That's a
You know,
red
so
flag.
that's a red flag. But again, in your guys' circumstances, it's cranked up at that point
Mhm.
because you're doing this together. It's not like you're on vacation or doing one of your camping weekends where it's like, we'll talk about it when we get back home.
Yeah.
Like, no, you are
You
home.
are.
You're
Yeah, we are
always home.
We're
Yeah.
home.
No matter
We're
where
never
you're at,
not
you're always
home.
home.
well, just remember, sometimes I'm fine is different for the two of you. It means different things.
And I think
After 17 or
over
18
the
years, they
years,
know what that means.
yeah, I think
Exactly.
over the years we've learned that. Like sometimes, like I might be in a mood, but it's just my mood. Like it's give me a second to get over it, and I really will be fine, and then I'm fine.
Saying that again, even me on the outside, I hear that.
Yeah,
I know you're confident.
No, I really am.
Fine is tough.
Women's I'm fine versus men's I'm fine. It's like,
But then too, I know when he sort of is in a mood,
Mhm.
I know that I need to give him space to sort of work that
Sure.
out in his head. And then if it's something that it's like it doesn't go away and it's continually, then it's like, okay, we need to talk about this.
Yep.
Like sometimes you're just like, you just need to have a
You
minute.
just wake up in a mood like, fuck this.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like everybody can do that. It's okay.
let me get my cup of coffee and I'll be right as rain.
But one of our greatest things in our relationship, it took a while for us to get there, but in the beginning of a relationship, we didn't have a lot of communication and we were struggling. And then we just came to an agreement that if we talk it out, whatever our grievances are, we'll work through it.
How did that come to be, though? Like, how'd that conversation go?
Yeah, that's big.
Because that's going to be something
It wasn't easy.
No.
definitely
no, that's
was
why I
not
asked.
easy.
No.
If it was an easy question, I wouldn't have asked. But yeah, I mean,
But
I'm gonna sound like a dick when I say this, and I apologize. But I remember we were having problems in the beginning of our relationship, and she was not one to, like, at the time, she wasn't one to talk about it.
because she's
She
an
would write a
introvert.
note,
Mhm.
right? She'd write me a note,
Oh,
and I'm more confrontational, where I want to talk.
you want to
Yeah.
hit the problem head on.
Oh,
Yeah.
guy
Yes.
that's a fixer.
But
No.
I need
No, get
I
out of here
needed
with
to
Wait,
get
that.
guys
my-
aren't fixers. What are you talking about, Steve?
Get out
I
of here
needed
with
to
that.
get my thoughts out of my head
And
and onto paper.
I came home one day from work, and there was this note sitting there, and I read it, and I remember I read it, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I
How early
fold-
on was this, or was this
Oh,
like
this
last
was
weekend? Or?
no. This was maybe a
years and years
couple
ago.
years into our relationship.
Okay.
And I remember I was like, "Who the fuck writes?" And I remember I fucking threw the letter. I was like, "If you want to fucking talk to me, like tell me." And I saw the look in her eyes, and it broke me because I wasn't aggressive, but I was just like, I come from a family where if you have a problem, you fucking shout it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's not how.
That's not how she was.
That also wasn't the reaction she was looking for.
No,
Definitely not.
no. You know, I'm a.
You like that?
So I was just like, and I remember I threw it, and I saw the look in her eyes, and I was like, oh shit.
Because in her mind, she's probably thinking, what's her biggest concern? You're literally throwing it away. You don't
Absolutely, yeah. I shit the bed on that one. But that's
no
just
one
what-
is disagreeing
But
with you.
it was a turning point, though.
It was a turning point
Yeah.
because at that point we learned how to communicate to each other. Because I come from a family, it's shouting, yelling in your face, brawling type shit. To her being able to express her feelings is more like put it on paper. I can get it all out,
Think it through.
think
Yeah.
it through.
Yeah.
And I was more reactionary. And from that point on, we talked about it, and I was like, I'll do better at this. And from that point on, it's been beautiful. But yeah, that was a turning point because I came in like a bull, like fuck this, fuck that. Who writes letters? Who does this shit?
Well, what I like about it is that you were.
And I still stayed.
Well, so what I was gonna say, Tim Dodge says hard lessons build stronger relationships.
True story.
Absolutely. Obviously, it shouldn't always be difficult or hard. I mean, that is where it's not working, right?
Mhm.
But the big thing is, and I know there's a lot of people out there, and the whole love languages thing that is very apparent now as a way to, in my opinion, to classify communication styles, right? And what you need, obviously, as a person, especially in that. What I like about it is that in that situation, you guys were both honest. But much like this trip that you're going on, fast forward years later, it's not the first sign of danger or the first thing that makes you feel uncomfortable. You were honest, Shannon, with that letter. You responded to the confrontation or the issue at hand the best way you wanted to.
Yep.
You felt comfortable with. Shannon didn't respond the way, didn't have the same love language or the same communication skills, and he had all that part, and he was honest, right? The fact is that you both took a step back to say, all right, we don't communicate the same way.
Oh, right.
So it was good before this situation. Is this a deal breaker or the red flag or whatever you want to call it? But the fact is that you were both honest at first, and then you had a chance to, sounds like, to really talk about it.
Yep.
And it wasn't like, all right, so next step is Shannon writes another letter, and then Shannon has to read it and respond, and then no, you started talking most likely.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
you both expressed your reactions, your true feelings about the situation, and it struck some chords on both sides. And then you're like, all right, no, this isn't big enough. Let's talk about it. If you couldn't talk it through, that's a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if your response back was, all right, give me a day, and you write another letter and he has to read, it's like you guys adapt. I mean, it's not people, I think these days in relationships, a lot of times they are so steadfast in the way that they want to communicate that if someone doesn't communicate the same way, they're really, really turned off by it, and they run away from that. And it's like, if you run away from thinking that the person you're with or the people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis are going to be the same as you, it's very short-sighted.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have everything from the stereotype of like opposites attract, which doesn't always work. And you have the other side of it that like, oh, I just want to find my best friend that's just like me. And it's like, that also doesn't work a lot of times too.
That gets
Somebody
boring.
like me.
So
That gets boring.
somewhere in the middle of it is where you're like, all right, you communicate like this and I communicate like this and I feel a certain way. Now we need to actually talk about it.
Make some concessions.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Mrs. Shannon then has to, maybe she's a little bit more vocal instead of writing. She's actually more vocal about things. And then Mr. Shannon,
I had to dial it down.
dial it. Yeah. Let's
Stop throwing things.
Let's stop throwing things. Let's stop putting
dropping
holes
the
in
F-bomb
walls.
all the time.
Like-
No,
But you both had to make a little bit of a compromise in order to come to a middle ground of how you could effectively communicate.
oh, absolutely. Because I come from a very hard family that's wasn't lovey-dovey, wasn't I love you and hugs and all this shit. It was not confrontational, but a very brash. I don't know if that's the right word, brash.
No,
living.
that
Mhm.
works.
So that's how
Seems
I
accurate.
Yeah.
that's how I lived life, you know, like confrontation. I'm on, like, you want some, I'll give you some.
No
Like,
holds barred.
no.
Yeah.
And she come from more of a loving, like nurturing to a degree family.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about things.
Yeah.
We just
That's-
swept things under the rug. You
Yeah.
don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk about, what you're actually feeling. You just pretend everything's okay.
Well, and sometimes if you've grown up where anytime you voiced an opinion about an issue and you've constantly been shot down for
Sure.
voicing that opinion,
Yeah.
Shut
that
down.
You
will
just
that
learn
will
to
cause you
keep
to
quiet.
develop a habit of not voicing concerns.
Yeah.
Like you may still do it like with the notes, or you'll find other ways, or you just let it just sit there and eat you up inside.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that in the long term creates more damage, because then one party is not actually expressing their concerns and the other party has no clue that there is a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did that look like to kind of make this more practical for people out there? Like that situation when, you know, you wrote the letter and you come in, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, seriously, you can't even talk to me. So if you can remember, like, how did that evolve going forward? How did that even situation? Did you guys actually, what I was saying, did that happen? Or did you guys take like a couple days apart? Like, I mean, how does that look? I feel like I know how it looks now.
I think we did take a day. Yeah, I think we did take a day, kind of like
It's been so long ago. I don't
Yeah.
even remember what we were fighting about.
Well, and that's kind of the big,
it was just
that's the
relation.
big picture item
Yeah.
there is
Right.
that, like, obviously what you were arguing about or what the fight was about was emotional and it didn't really,
I think
it
a
wasn't
lot
a
of
deal breaker.
I think a lot of it was me because I was still a hardened person.
Mhm.
And all my relationship before her, because I talked about this on the first time I was on, about my abandonment issues and all that kind of stuff. And I think I liked her so much and I was in love with her so much. In my past relationships, if I got to that point with somebody, I would fuck it up and run. But I didn't want to run in this relationship. Like, I wanted this one to work. So when I saw her react to me the way I reacted, I was like, holy shit.
Instead of the way that you were used to.
Oh, usually I'd be
past
like, well,
relationships.
fuck you. See you later.
I'm not saying at all costs, but I think what I hear there again is it's not about you.
No.
Excuse me. Again, it is about you. Obviously, you have to take care of yourself first in a relationship, right? But in that circumstance, it wasn't just about you. Where in the past, it sounds like it was about you. You shut it down.
Yeah, in the past, it was always about me and my feelings and my emotions. But I actually took into account her being devastated by the way I reacted. And I was like, holy shit. I think I just crushed her. And I wanted to be better. Like, I didn't want it to end. I didn't want it to, like, oh, here's just another relationship. Here we go. Like, fuck it, I'll move on. Like, I wanted to make it work. So I had to dive deep into myself and figure out, how do we communicate? How do we make this work? And we talked about it like a day later, whatever it was. I don't remember how long it was, but we worked it out and we came to an agreement. Like, if there's something wrong, just tell me. Like, it'll sting, it'll hurt if I fucked up or whatever it is, but I can deal with it.
Well, and early on in the relationship, you don't know exactly how the other person responds to certain things like that. You know, the honeymoon phase ends.
Yeah.
You know
And I
what
think
mean?
it was to him allowing me, giving me that, I don't want to say freedom, but just that opening up to say, hey, like, whatever it is that's bothering you, even if you can't get out their words right, or like, if you're having a hard time saying it, doesn't matter. Like, come to me, and just opening up that space to have that conversation.
Yeah. I think that in the situation you guys are going in, I mean, it's a prime example for any relationship is the fact that like you can literally say to that person, especially in this situation, it's not just about you, it's not just about how you feel, but you know that it's real. At least, you know, again, it has to be reciprocated. This is both sides of it, but you have to be able to say, it matters to me as much how the other person feels in that situation. That's what I hear with this. Now, fast forward to where you're at right now. This is not something that is for everyone, not just the fact that you're going all over the country and, you know, all that stuff. It's the fact that it's you're going to be in this situation where it's like, again, if you close off, if you don't say to your partner, sometimes to yourself, that you just like, I need a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to say that. And I've learned this again the hard way in the past, where it's like you have to be able to communicate. We're like, I need a minute to myself to really do this.
Yeah.
But you also have to voice that. That's in everything in life, but I think in a relationship and stuff like that, especially with what you guys are doing, I would venture to guess. And again, I'm not trying to wish, this isn't ill will. This is just the reality of things. It's like, just I need to think about this, you know, like, you know, respect me enough to be able to gather my thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it could get real weird in the RV real quick if
I think it'll get weird in a lot of ways. It's cool.
if we do not communicate.
Well, that's the one big thing I think we've learned, that how I communicate and how she communicates different. So she needs that minute. I'm about it. And she needs to gather her thoughts and whatever it is. We'll talk about it, and I've had to dial my personality down, which I'm glad I did, because living on the edge all the time is not good. And
that's not a personality. That's just where you're at. I mean, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I think, you know, again, knowing you now and knowing both of you, that's not necessarily that's where you were at. That's the journey. That's the reactionary side of things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, what's an inspiration in my opinion, I think that maybe some people may agree with me, is that the true greatness of your guys' relationship, and anyone else that, you know, you talk to people that you're like, oh, you're an inspiration. And you talk to someone like, you've been happily married for 20 some years. And it's like, oh, no.
Hell no.
I mean, you give them a second to talk.
He's
Like,
like married for 20 years, happily like 15.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, that's the thing. That's what we're talking about here, is that, you know, it's like if you're going through some issues on your own or in a relationship or whatever, and you start talking to people like, man, I just look up to you, you know, because like you seem so happy. And you're like, oh,
you really
yeah, we are. We are.
Come
but let me talk to you about
us.
real life for
Yeah.
a second. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, this is actually a difficult thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Goddamn right it is.
Yeah. I don't feel like we actually hit our stride and sort of like really got into our groove as a married couple, like 10 years in.
Mhm.
So like I feel like we're in this groove where we like really fully understand each other. We really have this deep connection, and not just as a married couple, but as friends.
Yep.
To where, you know, it took 10 years to sort of like get in that groove where it's like, okay, we kind of get this marriage thing now.
Yeah, not saying that all 10 years were bad. It's just
No,
like, this is
yeah,
reality.
you just learn so much over the years, and you learn how to be flexible, and you learn how to, you know, compromise and give where you need to. And I think another thing that for us, and I don't think we necessarily do it intentionally, but sometimes I feel like we try to outserve one another. And so we, you know, I love to do things for my husband, not because he tells me I have to, or not because, you know, I feel an obligation to, but because I want to. And I feel like he feels the same way. He does things for me that I'm like, dang, like, I can't believe he does these things.
Let's help him back in here.
Well, I think one of the reasons why sometimes it takes that long in a relationship is you have to wait for the situations to come up in a relationship in order to figure out how to handle those situations.
Yeah.
Like you don't you don't hit all the struggles you're not gonna come across every issue in a marriage in the first year you're married.
Right.
Like they're gonna come up as time goes on. So that's why sometimes it takes 5, 10, 15 years before you actually hit that stride, is because you sometimes have to wait for the situation to happen before you learn how to handle it, because
Right.
it doesn't all happen in that.
I gotta tell you too. I mean, there's different life situations that you guys have gone through as well, right? And everyone goes through in relationships, right? Also, there's the fact that what Shannon was saying when you guys were doing this, that he built up to this point, and he was closed off, and he wanted to like confront things and all that stuff. Is like you have to realize that, I don't know. I always go back to the 5-year mark, right? So who you were at 20 is not who you were at 25.
Absolutely.
Not who you are
Gosh.
at 30. You go decades,
Thank
there's like
God.
multiple changes, right? You're in a relationship for almost 20 years, like you guys are talking about. It's like you aren't the same people at the core, sure, but
Right.
you're not the same people you were in your 20s or 30s and now where you're at now.
Shannon's over there going, "Thank God."
Yeah.
However,
For both of us.
the reality of it is, and I think this is where, if you can, and I know everyone else struggles with it, is that it doesn't matter what decade you're in, whatever 5-year period you're in, 5 years from now, especially with the journey you guys are going on, you're not going to be the same people. As you get older, I think you do get, like, there's that stereotype, you get stuck in your ways, right? It is good that you're honest with who you are. The better you can be at being honest with who you are and what you need. It is what you're talking about, though. The big getting over that hump factor is, in my opinion, of can you communicate that part of it? Who you are, what you want, what are your needs, what are your wants, what do you need from yourself and a partner, right? Doing all that stuff, there are gonna, like, that's not easy, especially when you're not the same person, because no one is, right? So that's where it is that goes to even employment, that goes to career, everything else. I mean, shit. I mean, talking about these job changes you guys went through just to get to this point, that you're not the same person.
Oh gosh. No.
You're not this, like, Shannon, you just left your clientele in a sense that's like, in a year from now, you're not the same person. That I have people, I have income, I have people going that want to see me. I'm going to leave the house. I'm going to go into the shop. I'm going to cut hair, come home, talk to my wife about it. Like, you won't be the same person. That's perfectly, in my opinion, okay. And it's also really cool to see that, how you evolve as a person. If you don't include, in your situation and in a relationship, talking about the Valentine's Day episode, if you don't include that and communicate constantly, in a sense, not over communicate that it's annoying, but to a point that you're open, that you feel a certain way, or things aren't like you guys are saying, you've made a deal. You have to communicate that if it's not working, it doesn't mean you're going to turn around and come back right away. No. It's the fact that you bring it up. If you don't bring it up, if you don't communicate that, hey, this isn't working for me anymore, it's not this isn't working for me anymore. Right. It's this all around us, that what we're in right now is not working for me right now. Yeah. You talk it through and you figure out where you go from there.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
For sure.
Like, I don't, for me personally, I don't ever.
You said so much when you were gone.
I don't ever foresee a situation where we split.
Oh my gosh, that is not in the cards at all.
No, the situation might change, and the outside pressures might change. But I think we're secure in our relationship where we can both come to that agreement that if she's not feeling it or if I'm not feeling it, we just come home.
Yeah. And I think a part of that too is trust. Like, I trust Shannon, Mr. Shannon.
We know who you're talking about, unless you're speaking in the third person. If you start speaking in the third person, you do have to clarify.
Yeah,
That's just going to get more confusing, especially the audio listeners.
There is so much trust in our relationship. And I don't mean trust like, oh, he's, I trust that he's not going to go
Fuck
outside the
around
mirror.
on you.
Yeah. It's not that, like, I trust
you do
him.
Trust that part too.
That too, for sure. Absolutely. But it's just like the trust I have with him as a person, his just who he is. Just I don't know. There's just I trust that he's going to take care of me and protect me, and like I would hope that he feels the same way about me.
Oh, absolutely.
Why do you think that is? Or what got you to that point?
That's a great question. I think it's probably just all of the things that we've been through, and it's our relationship has always been this constant of, we're always working it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always going to build on that. And it's just been this, constant building of that. Because like you said, we weren't, the same people 18 years ago than we are now.
I was 17.
Well, I'm giving it to him, man.
I'm trying. You're making it a point.
I'm giving it to him.
I'm ruining this show.
So it's just over the years, the trust has built to such a level that it's unbreakable. And I
love that.
In my heart, believe that there's nothing that would, we would split over.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you guys this, but I'm going to take a guess that they probably have. And I think that you're very genuine for to a fault sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think when you get to that point, being genuine and having those common goals and having those conversations, what you guys are going through right now and doing this journey, again, you talked about this is like 12, 13 months ago that you made this decision. That is super, like that takes the trust you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, fucking around or being, dishonest in that way, that's a deal breaker. That's a problem, right?
Yep.
You eliminate that. That's hopefully people can get to that point in the relationship. It should be about you guys. And I think that's so cool. And to hear that there is, everyone keeps saying you're inspirational on the feed. And I think it's really neat to see what I really take from it is that, and I know Mr. Shannon more than Mrs. Shannon, but the interactions I've had with you is also the fact that you're genuinely yourself. You've gotten that point.
Why are you laughing?
I'm just thinking of something.
You want to talk about it? Like
Yeah.
you see something on TV or something? Like you
I was
read a
thinking about-
funny story? You
So
watch a TikTok?
over the last year, over the last year, I was always hanging out here. I was always doing this, going out. And over the last year, I kind of reverted to hanging out with her more over the last summer.
Oh, I can tell you a story about that too.
And then she went to you and was like, "Tell this
It's
motherfucker."
same story.
She's like,
Same story.
Tell
Did she tell you that? I know I told you that.
She's like, "Could you tell him to start going back to the podcast? Because I need my alone time."
Because you were doing that where you're like, I want to spend time with her. And it was like Wednesday nights and she was in the shop for something. I think buying you a gift or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you miss you. Yeah, we're doing date nights. It's like, can you encourage him to come back to your garage on Wednesday nights? Because we all like I've had several, like that's the thing is when you just overly commit and just like that's when the smothering a little bit where it's like again knowing each other. It's like we like when we like he had hobbies and she had hobbies and they were doing all this stuff and I ask him or ask her how things are going and it's like that exact situation. It's like when I met you or like recently you were super happy because like you were going to Wednesday night, podcast, or like you mentioned, like the men's group on Thursday, the hobbies. And it's like when people start asking, like, hey, we're just like really spending time together. When the other party comes in, it's like, can you get him out of the house? it's not necessarily that I don't like spending time with him, but like,
I do
he
enjoy
needs
my
that.
Wednesday nights,
well, he'll sit outside with his, phone or iPad or whatever. Just go outside, smoke, light up a cigar. Do you have any cigars? I'll buy you
Pretend you're
cigars.
there.
Go for a walk.
How's the signal out here? It's good enough. Get outside.
Oh my God.
But that
I
is
love it.
that is important, right? Obviously having your time, the me like this we were talking about me time,
Mhm.
where it was like something where it's like you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
You're not yourself right now.
Yeah.
because you're not giving yourself.
Well, that's what I love about her,
That's funny.
because I can go out and enjoy Wednesday nights like this, Thursday nights men's group, whatever. You know, I have a lot of things going on throughout the week, and then I started dialing that back a little bit and hanging out with her on Wednesdays. She's like,
Which was great. I appreciated
I love
you
you, but
wanting.
could you get the fuck out of here?
I appreciated you wanting me to spend time with me, but I know that this is something that's important to you as well, and that you enjoy it. So I
Such
also
a
enjoy it
political
when you're
answer, and then
here.
That's a political answer.
I also
I-
enjoy it when you were here.
What had happened was,
I went through the opposite problem in a previous career when I was a cigar rep. You know, being on the road Monday through Friday.
yeah, you did.
Monday through Friday, I was out on the road visiting cigar shops, hanging out in cigar shops, driving all over the Midwest. And then on Saturdays, chances are we were at a cigar shop, or I was at a cigar shop. That drove my wife nuts. Even though she was my biggest supporter for me making that career change, that absolutely drove her nuts.
Yeah.
And that was something I'd learned. It's like, you know, I'm spending Monday through Friday not at home, not with her. Saturday, Sunday, maybe spend some time with her.
A little bit of balance there.
Yeah, it's a
What was
priority.
crazy? So in the beginning of our relationship, you know, I was a truck driver, and she was she bartended for the longest time, and we were kind of like ships in the night. But when we get together, I'd be like, "Hey, how was your day?" Da 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 da, and she'd be like, "I don't want to talk. I need a moment to like get in to relax and whatever." I never understood that. I'm like, "Fuck, I just want to talk to you. I haven't seen you all day." Blah blah blah. But now that I'm working in an industry where I talk to people all day, now I come home and she's like, "You need like 10 minutes. What do you need to relax?" It's so changed now that now I understand. When she would come home from the bar, she didn't want to talk because she talked to people all fucking day. Now I'm in that position and I need that 10, 15, 20 minutes just to come home, decompress. It just blows my mind how we've switched roles. And I understand it completely now. And thank God she was in that industry before. And she understands me. When I come home, I just want to sit down and just kind of like chill.
I can see it in his face.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some days are light and whatever. Some days are pretty heavy with the conversations. But yeah, I just want to come home and just like, can I just sit for, like, I love it. I love it when I come home. She'd be like, "Are you hungry? Do you need 10, 15, 20? What do you need before I like fire up I'm like, "Yeah, just give me 10 minutes. And that's everything. That's so much.
Yeah.
That is everything. Those 10 minutes, those 15, whatever it is, that is everything to me, to just let my mind decompress, let it all out, and then we have a great night.
That takes communication also, right? And also some realization. You know, that's something that, like, even Kristen and I, we've been together less. Obviously, we've been together for a year. We are at the point in the relationship that it's like we still have different places and, you know, all that stuff. And it's like we've had that up and down, different schedules, right?
Mhm.
Working in the shop, working retail, you know, something like, you know, like on Tuesday or whatever, I work open to close. So I get home at like 9:30 at night, and she's been off work. She comes over, she wants to, you know, spend time, and then she has to be at work first thing in the morning. She's already been off work for a while or whatever. And so like those are those moments where it's some rocky waters at 1st,
Mhm.
adapting to that. Does it fit in your life? And it's gotten to the point where luckily we've worked past that, where it's like I get home at 9:30 and she's ready for bed at like 10. She'll stay up a little bit later, but she can't stay up too late. And it's like, I don't want to stay up too late, but at the same time, it's like if you get off of work at 5 o'clock, you don't go to bed at 6:30.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm tired and I do want to do that, but the same thing. It's like, all right, well, like now it's gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I'm going to go to bed. I'm like, all right, well, I'll be in shortly. You know what I mean? And when you start living with someone with different schedules and different responsibilities, with you guys going through this journey you're going on, that's going to be the case.
Mhm.
What are you going to do today? It's Tuesday. and you say, well, I got a full line, of meetings or calls or whatever you got to do, remotely. And it's like, what are you doing? It's like, well, it's a slow day for me. Especially at first. I figured I'd go check out the neighbors, and I don't have any. So I'm going to go try to drum up some business.
Yeah.
And then by 1, I think, I just picked up this new bottle of bourbon. And I think I'm going to, try that out. And
I'm going to call my boys on FaceTime and have a drink.
Yeah. And then you get off work and you're like, how was your day? I'm like, it's great. How was your day?
I drink.
Do you
whiskey
need a
and smoke
moment?
Cigars all day.
You don't need a moment. She might need a moment.
She'll need the moment.
Because you walk in, you're like, hey, what's
up,
going
man?
on? And she looks at you like, I need a moment and maybe a drink.
I need 10 moments.
But it's talking about that.
I actually got a little glimpse of that when
Today.
when we
Today when I ended up on this podcast.
when we first pulled into where we're staying at now in the RV park, and he has off on Mondays.
Mhm.
And so this was before I got my remote job. So I was commuting
Sure.
to Dublin from Sunbury, 45 minutes. And, I worked all day, came home. He's off on a Monday. He comes in, he slaps money down on the table. He's like, I made $150 today. I cut 3 heads today. Just the people that were in the RV park. He's like, yeah. And they fed me shots of tequila. And so
Third guy, not the greatest haircut.
so I was like,
A little uneven.
I was thinking, is this what it's gonna be?
This is what I'm walking
like?
into. Some days, maybe.
Yeah.
Some days.
But hey, he brought home the money.
There you go. I love it. Yeah.
So there is that need there,
Sure.
because we were there like maybe a week or so, and he was already had people that were interested.
That's phenomenal.
So yeah,
If we're being honest right now.
I mean,
Oh,
might as
God.
well, right?
When I
I can cut the camera if you want to really get it out there. Oh, let's go.
hell
let's
no,
go.
You need a
Hell no.
close-up, like,
Oh,
stand
wait,
over
now-
him.
bring it in
I wish
tight.
I had more.
Tighten it up right here.
I can't. I don't have the technology.
Now you're starting to be honest.
Yeah,
No.
right.
When I decided to, because I toyed with the idea of becoming a barber. I was like, yo, what do you think about me changing professions? We had a good life. And I remember I was like, hey, what do you think about this? She's like, well, you're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
I was like, you're
I say
fucking
that?
right. Yes, you did.
Didn't say that.
Someone
When
remembers it.
I decided to go into barber school, I had to quit my job. I had to quit
Mhm.
everything. She was the breadwinner while I was in school. I had a little part-time job, but it was making no money. You know what I mean? So she held down the fort for a whole fucking year. And it was like amazing. Like I realized at that point we can conquer anything.
Oh my gosh, if we could have gotten through that year,
Oh.
this should be a cakewalk, honestly.
That was tough on you, Shannon.
Well, the things that happened during that year were so out of control.
How?
Shit. So the job she was at, this was September. I think it was September. The changes were going on at her job, and she decided not to stay. So I have no income. She has no income
That's
at this
perfect.
point.
That's perfect.
And we were homeless.
And we were homeless, and we made it work. Like I literally looked at her and said, if we got to live out of my fucking rooftop tent, we'll do it. We'll live. We'll make it. Like until I get out of school, because I still had until January till I just graduated. And she looked at me and said, we'll do whatever we got to do. Whatever we got to do, we'll fucking make it. And I was just like, holy shit, I'm in. So we made it work. God provided. We got a new place. It was better than the place that we were living at cheaper. And then there's so many things that happened. And we fucking made it and came out on top.
And all those things got us to where we are today.
Yeah,
You came out stronger.
100%.
Yeah, if you stayed at that job, just to be the breadwinner at that moment, right? All new issues. Not saying you should just quit every time. Again, same thing. There's no story here that is like first sign of trouble, you just bail, right? But it's like being honest and having that support, making sure you're not making the mistake that you're going to lose everything, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the fact that if you would have stayed at that job, possibly this step wouldn't have been possible, because now you're in a job just for the money, just to provide, which again, there's nothing wrong with if you have to do that for a while. But if the writing's on the wall, you do have to take those steps, because I know I've stayed in a job for the money and it didn't go well.
Yeah.
I was unhappy. I mean, you do that because you have to. That's one thing. But much like what you guys are doing now, I keep trying to tie it back into it, is that you come up with a plan. If you have a partner that you can communicate the way you two do, and the way I feel like a lot of our listeners may, like, they've made some comments, and the way I feel now and Nate feels, and Sean in the garage, it's like you have those tough conversations. You don't avoid it. That's what it is. Truly, those are the toughest moments. Yep. Those are the toughest moments, that if you actually can have that conversation, because you in that situation, Shannon, and then Mrs. Shannon saying, like, I don't like my job either. You may have to stay there a while just so you can pay the bills if you're in that position. But if you're in a position that you're like, all right, so what's the plan though? Is the plan to stay in this moment? And it's like, you're working through this. I'm unhappy. Now we're going to be unhappy together. And this is going to just absolutely destroy us.
Well,
or do you go after it?
When she said she wasn't going to, they provided a different route for her to stay in this job. And she stood firm in her beliefs and said no. And I supported that 100%, knowing what the ramifications were going to be. And like, we have to trust in this plan. Like, we had to trust in this plan 100%.
And each other.
Yeah. And each other. We had to lean on each other in this moment.
Yeah.
And we said, screw it. If we lose everything, we lose everything. And from that decision, that was like a defining moment that changed everything.
I think,
it was the
She
catalyst.
also knew it wasn't permanent.
Yeah, it was the catalyst that really started, like, from that moment on, everything up until this point has sort of built off of that.
You knew you weren't going to lose everything.
No.
You say that, Shannon.
We're losing each other.
That's what I mean. Like, there's a big part of that, and you would survive. If you have to survive, it's like, you're going to take a job that you don't want just for fucking hourly, just to pay the bills. Like, you're not going to lose everything with the base that you had, basically founded between the two of you.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't even emphasize enough of that moment. September. I remember when she came to me and telling me all this, I was like,
this was 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2019. It was like end of September 2019. And I just remember sitting there like, fuck.
I think we've all been in those fuck moments.
And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll make it work. Whatever it is going to be. If we got to live in my rooftop tent, I didn't care. I did not give one fucking iota how we were going to make it work. I knew we would make it work. And then the doors open, things came about, and it worked out beautiful, more than I could even put into words how it worked out. And that was, I believe that was the catalyst to everything.
You read that?
What makes their relationship so strong is respect. They respect each other totally. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank 100. You, Ray. Yeah. Ray, I love you to death, brother. I'm so glad I got to meet you when you came here last year. You're class act, brother. Appreciate you.
You guys talking about that, I mean, it reminds me of like a position I was in where literally I had to just take a job just to be able to provide. And I felt like crap. doing that because it's not where I wanted to be. It's not what I thought I should be doing. But I also knew that staying at home doing nothing was not an option whatsoever. But I knew whatever, even in that moment of doing something I didn't want to, I knew that was temporary.
Sure.
Yeah.
I knew I was still going to build myself back up to do something I wanted to do. And the biggest thing that got me through that was having someone there with me that believed in me. To
look at you now, brother. Look at you now.
I just recently, for the second time in my life, left a career that I'd been at for 8+ years.
Sure.
To do something different, completely different. Both times, like not even close to similar industries, just absolutely.
Lead this into your closing.
Okay.
No, you're fine. I mean, don't finish that thought. I'm just saying, like, lead it into your closing.
No, I mean,
I don't know if Shannon knows what closing remarks are on this show, but this is where we get into the closing remarks.
Sure.
But no, it's one of the biggest parallels. Yeah, it's one of the biggest parallels that with what you guys have said to my life is having someone there to support you when you decide to make these big changes. Because even though, up until recently, I was in a position where I was, providing just fine for my family, I wasn't happy. And my wife knew I wasn't happy. And, I made a career change, a very drastic career change, something I'd never done before. But I have a lot more confidence in doing it because I know I have someone there who supports me. And now the days that I do go into work, because I used to be remote as well, but now the days that I do go into work,
go into the job, man.
Yeah, when I come home, I'm a completely different person than I was doing the stay-at-home job that I had.
In what way?
I'm happier. I'm happier. I'm more outgoing. I'm not shut off. I'm not closed in. I'm not quiet when I come home because I'm excited.
There it is.
Because I did something that I enjoyed doing. Something I love. Something I still have. And she's texting me right now.
Just get her on the feed. Like, I'll put her comments up there, Jess.
She even said you're so much happier. But no, I mean, and that's one of the biggest differences, because now I come home, she sees I'm happy. I'm a different person when I get off work now than what I was 2 weeks ago. But I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now if I didn't have my wife next to me.
Your friends see that too, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Don't talk about me. I'm just saying.
Other friends.
Oh, I'm involved.
Yeah,
the other guys.
Yeah, you are.
I've heard some things.
But no, but I mean, one of the other parallels, my wife and I communicate on different levels, just like the two of you talked about. There were times in our relationship where, if an issue came up, my wife would take days or weeks before she brought it up. By that point, I'm over it. Like it's gone. It's no longer even in my thought. And then when she would bring it up, I'm like, wait, now you want to bring this up? All right, here we go. just like Shane was talking about. All right, here we go. Let's throw. All right, here, gloves are off. Let's go. But that's something that both of us have worked on over the years, because we both realized that us doing that was not healthy in our relationship.
It's not.
There had to be some compromises on both parts. Her being more open, and if something was wrong, calling it out when it was an issue instead of letting it fester.
Have to address it.
Well, because she also learned as well that if she didn't bring it up, it festered in her mind and it became a bigger issue than what it
always
actually
does.
was.
Yeah.
Because you should know. All is another aspect.
Yeah.
You should know.
It's like, but no, if you don't tell me, I don't know, or it's gone. Like the next day, I'm no longer thinking about it. But if we talk about it while it's fresh, and also the thing I've had to learn, because I don't want to just sit there and, put put all the responsibility on my wife. The thing I've had to learn, like Shannon did, take the emotion out of it. You know,
That's tough though.
Oh God, yes. Especially for me, yes, it is. But I had to learn.
Do you remember that scenario? No, I'm drinking.
But yeah, I had to learn that, and I had to learn it the hard way. But because I learned it, now we're more effective communicators.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll leave with before you guys go is when you guys were talking, one of the old quotes that popped in my mind, I'm sure you guys have heard it before. The day you stop learning is the day you start to die.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing in a relationship.
Yeah.
The day you guys stop communicating with one another, that's when a relationship starts to die.
100%.
So don't ever
That's good. That's a good.
Don't ever be afraid to bring up and communicate an issue.
Solid.
Because if you don't bring it up, nothing changes. It just builds on to the next problem and the next. And eventually it becomes a bigger issue than you can fix.
And if you expect things to change without any action, they won't. Sean, come on over here.
Yeah. I was going to give mine.
I got you.
All right.
All right, I won't
walk outside with it.
All right, I'll stay right here. This is for you guys. Sure, you too, if you want to be part of the group.
The audio listeners don't know you're going to.
No, sorry, I'm pointing to the Shannons plural. It's been I'm so happy for you guys. I'm so excited for you guys. I've had the honor to know you for quite a long time now, and to see you as a couple is something that I strive to be with Teresa. You guys have been just like the poster children of what a married couple should be like. As hard as it is for me to say goodbye to you guys, I think, and it's going to be hard. I've kind of been in denial with it for a while, because it's like, it hadn't been like real for me until like, oh shit, now it's real. But, I'll never forget the time I spent with both of you, especially you, Shannon. I mean, the times we golfed together and the times we spent time with these guys. I mean, you guys are all my family as far as I'm concerned. You guys are very, very, some of my best friends. But I'll never forget the times you and I had when there was just you and I by a fire, you and I golfing, you and I talking. When I'm in a rough spot in life, I would always go to you. And I know I can still do that. I know you're just a phone call away, but it's not the same when you're just around the corner and we can have that time together. It's something I'll never forget. And I know that there's going to be times when you guys come back and we can visit. But it's been a hell of a ride, and I look forward to the adventures that you're going to be going on. I think we're all going to be excited to see what you guys do as you go on this adventure. And, you know, I told Shannon this, my wife said that if I don't come to see you this spring while you're in South Carolina, she's going to divorce me. So I have to go down and see you guys. Yeah, might as well do it right now. But
I think he knows a guy.
Yeah. But yeah, fuck yeah, man. I'll try that. But anyway, man, I'll never forget you guys. I love you guys so much. And it's going to be hard, but it's going to be so exciting at the same time. Yeah. And it's really smoky in my eyes are getting a little watery. So I'm going to give the mic to Steve.
Oh, thanks, Sean.
I love you, Sean. You know
the garage
that.
door's open. There's no smoke in this garage.
All right, so I will. I'll do my closing remarks before you guys do, because again, this is your big journey here. But you know, this was the annual Valentine's Day episode, and we did talk about, you know, relationships and couples a lot tonight. And I don't want to exclude anyone that's not in a relationship that might be listening. And I don't know who is out there that is listening to this, but it's not just something to strive for. Because again, if you strive for it blindly and you just want to be in a relationship, that's not going to work. You're not going to be yourself. And the biggest thing that I've taken away from knowing you guys so far and this conversation tonight is that what really strikes a chord in even my personal life is you got to get to a point where you know yourself and you're able to communicate and able to express to the mirror, let alone someone else, of what you need, what you want from life and from a relationship. It's hard enough to really kind of figure out what you want from your life, you throw another person in that, it gets way more complicated. And I think that, you know, everyone's saying you're an inspirational couple, and you are, and it's fantastic. But there's a lot of steps up to it. And that's where I go back to what I said earlier, is that when you talk to a couple like yourself and the people you'll meet, there's going to be people that are also happy couples that have gone through a long road together. There's going to be people that will listen to this show or whatever you guys do on social media, and they're going to be like, man, I want to be just like them. You don't see it on, someone said, like, that'd be a great, you know, reality TV or YouTube channel. Yeah, that would be great. If all you had to do is like, they look happy, I can be that. It's like, if you are even honest in how you got there, that's the core of it.
Mm-hmm.
The situation you guys brought up really, it hit home to me, and I think it should be able to hit home to a lot of people if you keep sharing that story, is that where you're at right now, I would venture to guess, and I would probably put money on the fact that most couples would not be able to. I'm not talking about because of responsibilities, kids, and all this. Would you be able to pick up and leave and get an RV and have a year plan that's not even bulletproof? Are you ready to do that with someone else? First and foremost, are you ready to do it with yourself? Most people, probably not. So that's the first step,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So doing it with someone else, as this is the annual Valentine's Day episode, it's I do appreciate Valentine's Day. And the previous episodes, I think, Shannon, you've watched these and listened to these. We talked about, like, oh, is Valentine's Day a Hallmark holiday, or is it something? If you need that reminder to show someone that you appreciate them, that's a flag, that's a problem. But sometimes you do need to, because life gets in the way. You're just going through life. So to those that are in relationships, they're like, oh, we don't celebrate Valentine's Day because, you know, there's like this weird resentment to a holiday like that. I can appreciate the fact that there is a date on the calendar that if you aren't doing that, it's kind of a recentering moment. I like that. I'm not saying you have to go all out and spend a shit ton of money and do all that stuff, but you have to do that. You have to sometimes be reminded that the person that you're going through life with, if you're in a relationship, and I think that what I see more now with Valentine's Day, sometimes sadly, is that if you're not in a relationship, you don't have to be mad at the fact that you're not in a relationship. Are you ready to be that? Do you love yourself? Do you know, would you be able to pick up and leave and do that and go out and just do you? Mm-hmm. Or are you constrained too much by everyday life? And I think that's where a lot of times the true success in relationships is, are you honest with yourself of what you need, what you want? Can you express that? Or are you too tied up in the fact that you want to be in a relationship, or you are in a relationship that's not working, that you just sacrifice yourself for it?
Yeah.
That's a problem. Yeah. That won't work. It'll work longer for you, likely, than it will for the person you're trying to be in a relationship with. So I think being honest with yourself and knowing who you want to be, that's the first step, and knowing what you want, what your needs are, what your non-negotiables are. We talked about that recently in the podcast, what your non-negotiables are. If you have those, and you have someone that's in your life, or you find someone that comes into your life, that you can be able to express that. You don't want to just you don't want to mess it up. Sure. But your guys' story, what you said, that when Shannon wrote a note over a confrontation, you guys can't even remember what it was about. There are so many stories that you walked away from relationships because it was about you.
Yeah. And
I will say, to your guys' credit, and to anyone that has had that experience, you're probably right. If it was all about you and you didn't care about what the other person wanted out of that, you may have dodged a bullet. However, you get confident enough in yourself that you know what you want. You know you want to be with that person, and that person's perspective matters as much or almost as much as what your perspective is. That's real. That's where the work starts.
Yeah.
It's not going to end. And I wish you guys the best. And I will miss Shannon in the garage. I'll miss the other Shannon encouraging him to be in the garage. So I'll expect Shannon Lee Chapman to be on the feed most Wednesday nights. And I know things are healthy and things are going well. And so I'll say that I want to raise a glass wherever you're at, listening, now live or after the fact. But cheers to Shannon and Shannon on a epic adventure. I can't wait to see and hear and get them back on the podcast. That, happy Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you. You too.
You're an inspiration, as everyone said. And now I'll turn to you guys.
I'm going to leave you with the last word, Mama. So,
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Good move.
Oh, gosh. Right.
So I came into our relationship as a lion, and I've learned how to be a lamb. With
Handsome lamb.
a handsome fucking lamb, a bearded lamb
Oh.
with
People
lion
pay money for that.
with lion tendencies. I will protect her till my death, but it's been a journey in our relationship. It hasn't been roses. It'll never be roses in any relationship. But like we were talking about, communication is the core of any relationship. And we've learned to do that. We've become stronger through that. And just if you love somebody to the point where you want to see a future, if you can dial back who you are and learn your core, you learn your triggers, you learn all that and what makes you lash out in old relationships and why it didn't work. If you can figure that out with a person that you truly love, life will be exceptional. When you can strip away your own bullshit and your own family history and your own crap that drives you through life, if you can strip that away and just be honest with yourself, when you become honest with yourself, this is speaking for me. If you become honest with yourself and understand why you act away, and you can figure that out, and you delve into the person that you love, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. It's not easy at all, but it's a journey. And when you can figure that out, the journey becomes a beautiful process. You'll never be perfect. You'll never be right, but you are working towards something together. And you can talk about it, own up to your mistakes, and understand if you mess up, it's not the end of the world. And just trust in the process. And I don't know. I was going to say love conquers all, but that's not true. Communication conquers all.
That's fair. Yeah. Shannon Marie,
So,
closing remarks, first podcast.
yeah, I think that you hit a very important point in this whole process of not just a marriage, but a relationship, whether it's, a relationship with, somebody that you are, attracted to, or friendship, or even within, relationships within your jobs and, friends and things like that, is knowing who you are and working on the stuff, the baggage, the trauma, and really being able to understand who you are at the core allows you to really open yourself up to be loved. If you love yourself, it opens you up to be able to be loved in a way that you should be loved. in the way that you deserve to be loved,
How you
And-
want to be loved.
how you want to be loved.
Yeah.
And part of that is communication. Part of that is trust. Part of that is not just taking, but giving as much as you take, and understanding that what we have is a gift. And if somebody gives me a gift, I'm going to treat that as something special. I'm not just going to throw it in the closet and, get it out when I want to use it, or, it's something that's to be held in as a gift, and it's special and it's precious, and you need to treat it that way. And I think we have gotten to a point, because we have learned who we are as people. We've learned how we love ourselves so that we can love each other. Through all of that, we've built up that trust. We have learned how to communicate, and it's just now it's this packaged gift that we can, treasure for literally the rest of our lives.
And this is why I love this woman.
Why did it take us 5 years to get her on the show? Jesus.
And then on the other hand, talking about this whole journey and this trip that we're about to take.
Yeah.
It's a leap of faith, and not only, all of these things that we talked about, and you have to I have to know myself going out here on the road with the unknown, and know myself, and so that we can know each other and know how we're going to be able to conquer this together. But being able to dream something up, that this was not something we thought of, years ago, and thought, one day.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah. It's, it's taking that step out and just saying, you know what, there's many things that we talked about doing over the years that we never really did. And, this is something we decide, this is important to us. This is how we want our life to look, because it's not just a thing we're doing. This is a lifestyle change. And so you have to put a plan to it, and put a plan and a goal, and, work up to that. And so here we are. Like we are doing it. We said we were going to do it, and we're doing it. And we get to do it together.
I don't want to take away from what you said, but I will say that there are things that sometimes you look down at calculated risks.
Yeah.
And I think relationships, what you're doing right now, you guys have really put thought into this. There's no such thing as a sure bet, but this is a calculated risk. And the biggest parts of that are you guys together.
It's the only way we can do it.
You would never do it without it.
Nope.
Hell no.
So, guys, thank you very much. Shannon, we wish you the best. And
Thank you.
I can try to come up with a toast here, but I'm not going to do it because it's going to be bad. But I will say this,
We appreciate you.
We absolutely love you, and everyone out there in the community loves you, and you are an inspiration, and we wish you the best. We do hope you come back and visit this area and this garage and this community, and you stay in touch, and we'll support you.
Thanks.
We love the community. I love the BS community is insane. So appreciate every one of you, everybody I've met in person. You're amazing. I love the conversations. Thank you.
Cheers. Happy Valentine's Day. 2 great Valentines. And also Kristen out there, and Nate. To Jess. Thought you were going to chime in there. Sean, to Teresa. And all you lovebirds out there. Cheers, guys. We'll see you guys soon.
We love you. Thank you.
Cheers.